Before we begin Street Talk, I just need to give you... We don't normally do this, but it's a trigger warning. We're going to talk about some really serious topics. We're going to talk about suicide, addiction, alcoholism, racism.
We cover the whole
stuff.
gamut.
It's that you will notice it's a very long episode. So if any of these subjects are going to upset you, please do not listen to the episode. We try to be as sensitive as possible, but we understand that mentions of these things will upset some people.
Also, sometimes we're not the most sensitive on podcasts.
So here,
mostly me.
Yeah. So here's Street Talk.
Okay, well, I think I've calmed down a little bit now. I think I came across as a little bit hyper in our intro there. I just get so excited to do a podcast with you every Friday night.
Why wouldn't you be excited? Think of all the great things that happened this week, such
like
as
what?
Peter having a seizure.
He did have a proper old seizure today, didn't he?
Petering out.
He's petering out as the first story I'm going to do this week. Peter and Carla. Oh, the Carla and Peter fans. What did they call? I can't think. Carter. Oh, the Carter fans. Oh, they loved it this week, but they're probably crying and stuff. Watch what you're doing with Stan's Coronation. They totally baited the Carter fans on Twitter on Wednesday night, going, "Oh, Carter and Peter fans. Oh, what are you going to think of tonight?" You just got to be careful with that because you don't want to get into a Carter situation here. And well, they may be developing something with Nina and Asher as well.
That is the final one. You've skipped ahead. Oh my goth. I like that. It was quite funny.
Yeah, or gothic romance. I thought we could call it as well. No, that's our sixth storyline. Oh, I've written Ray gone away for the second story, but I didn't actually meant to call it that. But I suppose we could. That was my temporary story.
Ray, it's time to pay.
Yeah, something like that. Then we will have... They were obviously the two main stories this week. And then we had a load of little stories, including Gail's capers. And, oh my...
How much mileage can you get out of the fact that the word fanny is a woman... It used to be a woman's first name, not so popular anymore. Also means a lady's private area in the UK or her derriere abroad.
I think that Coronation Street is banking on getting a heck of a lot of mileage out of that.
I can't see this ending anytime soon, but I kind of feel a bit as though I was immediately over it.
We're kind of spoiled for choice of storyline titles here. I don't know. For example, I've got Something Kind of Fanny. A bit of a funny story. Fanny business. Gail fannies about. Desperately finding Fanny. Any of them will do.
See, look, if you were in the Coronation Street writers' room, you'd say, yeah, great, bung them all in.
Yeah.
Ooh, they can all go in the script.
Yeah.
Why pick one?
Itself. Oh, no, we both came up with storyline titles for the Bailey story this week, didn't we? You wanted to call it...
Barely Any Room.
Barely Any Room. I wanted to call it Threes Are Crowded.
Because number three. And there's three people that don't like it. Oh no, there's two people that don't like each other and one person stuck in the middle. Yeah. And then James and Ed going, don't just leave me out of it.
So again, it's got a couple of storyline titles there. Then we will have got the Better Call Paul story, which I just can't be bothered to think of another story for. And then we will have the Oh My Goth story at the end.
Yeah.
So, Gemma, would you like to take the Peter story? Because I think from the discussions we were having during the week, you felt more sympathetic towards that. It kind of touched you more and got you in the feels more than me, maybe. And you
It's because you don't realise that you lead such a charmed life. Your emotions, this is going to sound rude, but your emotions are not very complicated, are they? Like, you don't overthink things, and I really admire you for that. Like, you're like, ooh, nice cup of tea, whereas I'm like, nice cup of tea. What happens if they run out of tea bags because of Brexit? We have to buy some more milk. Oh, this cup's not very clean. I have to make sure that gets clean because the dishwasher's broken, blah, blah, blah. Like, you although you stress about stuff and sometimes you get down, I feel like there's no way you're ever going to end up as an alcoholic, for example.
I lead a simple life in many ways.
You do.
Like Kirk. But I do think that
Whereas I am the queen of overcomplication.
I do also think that there's something, not quite right inside my head, because I do really struggle to empathise with people, and on TV, probably real life as well, to be honest.
I think real life pretty.
And I can quite often on telly watch people going through the most hideous emotional trauma, and it just kind of leaves me cold.
What do you mean? Do you not feel sorry for them? What are you thinking? You're just a psychopath.
Sometimes I don't. Maybe a little bit. Sometimes I do. Forrest Gump makes me cry. So there must be something that's,
Forrest Gump's rubbish.
But I must admit that I was watching... I tell you what, Chris Gascoigne, what a fantastic job he did this week. In fact, all three of the leads there, Chris, Ali and William Roach, who still continues to wow and impress me. He has got it.
Yeah.
They were acting their little socks off this week. But I was kind of sitting watching them on Monday and Wednesday, particularly going, yeah... And that was about it. Whereas you were there sort of saying, and you can be pretty stone-hearted as well sometimes, to be fair.
Yeah.
You were there going, I feel really bad for Peter. I really sympathise with him.
It's because I, unfortunately, can see this happening to me, and I'm very selfish and self-absorbed, so I'm watching it going, do not let this ever happen to you. This could be you. If you're not careful... Because I know I've got an addictive personality, and I do overcomplicate things, and I get myself in trouble. And I tell you, your life would be so much better if I wasn't around, always get myself in trouble.
What do you mean? How do I do a podcast? I haven't got to talk to. Cat?
Well, that's why I find it really fascinating to watch, because it's like, it is a really complicated relationship, and I feel bad for Pete. It's sad because I identify with him, and I shouldn't, because I'm not like him at all. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not in danger. I'm not going to kill myself or through drinking or anything. But I can just like those kind of self-destructive elements of my personality that exist, however mild they are compared to him. I think, yeah, the guilt and the shame and the endless cycle of trying and failing and feeling bad about yourself and feeling worse and having to start again from the beginning all the time, and just being broken and kind of worn down by this continual effort that you have to make, that seems to be more difficult for you than it is for anybody else, and everyone else is just at a level that you can't get to, and they're there and there's no effort involved, and you're struggling to keep up, and you're not even at the normal,
Is that how you feel sometimes?
Yeah,
your situation?
Yeah.
That's really sad. I feel so sad for you.
Thank you.
At least you're not going to get into a situation where you're sitting at the dining room table and there's a little packet of French cheesy biscuits in front of you, and we're there saying, Gemma, you've got to eat a biscuit. Just one. You've got to reduce your biscuit intake, but I'm going to sit here and watch you eat without that biscuit right now.
Somebody needs to do this for me for like Slim Fast or something, or like cut my stomach out. You know what they do? Cut a bit out and go, right, you can only have one packet of crisps a day. I don't think you're supposed to eat any if you're trying to lose weight.
You can have just a little crisp.
Have a tiny crisp.
You can have the little crispy bits at the bottom of a packet just to stave off the withdrawal symptoms. You don't want to end up like Peter was at the beginning of tonight's episode on the kitchen floor, do you?
Isn't it? It was kind of ironic watching. It was kind of ironic watching this because one thing people always say, because I'm talking about food addiction. I've just diagnosed myself with this. Obviously, this is not medical at all. I'm just being dramatic. But the one thing about like when you're struggling with your weight, and surely everyone knows what I'm talking about. You can't just stop eating. Drinking, you can stop drinking. And so when you're watching somebody who's an alcoholic, you're like, yeah, you just stop drinking. You don't need to drink. Whereas
Are you saying because you do need to eat at some point?
You always need to eat. Every day you're faced, depending on how many times you're going to eat, up to 3, you're faced with choices, and you have to make a choice, and it's easy to make the wrong choice or eat too much, and then once you've done that, that's it. You think, oh well, stuff it, I'll just eat what I like.
Shall I have this slice of cake, or shall I have the rest of the cake that's left after I take the slice out?
I'll just leave this slice for tomorrow, so it can be good then. But listen, what I'm saying is, you kind of think when you're in that situation, well, alcoholics, at least they can just say, just don't drink at all. Whereas I am always having to like eat a little bit, and it's like if you were on drugs and like have a few drugs but not too many. But Peter was like in the situation where it's the same thing. You have to have a little bit, and you have to control it. You can't just go cold turkey. And I think that's a real sadly ironic kind of thing about if you become an alcoholic, that the fact that you are then dependent, you have to wean yourself off. And if you're listening to this and you are worried about how much you drink and you think that you might need to cut back, you have to taper it down. you should probably talk to a doctor. But if you're gonna, to reduce the amount you drink and you think you're chemically dependent on it, you need to seek medical advice because it's serious.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm sure you can go onto the itv.com/advice website as well.
How much whiskey am I allowed a day.com. Well, apparently, I also really liked the fact it felt kind of really, really super unscientific, even though they got told that he has to have a little bit of alcohol. And then it's like the doctor's like, yes, it's scientifically proven that he must have a certain amount of alcohol every day and taper off. And then he opens a bar and says, what would you like? We've got some Jack Daniels here. We've got a nice bit of Campari, if you like that, with a bit of lemonade. Yeah, it just seemed really weird. I think Roy said something like, because he had whiskey, didn't he? Like a bottle of whiskey. Surely it should be something he doesn't like to put him off, you know? Like brandy or like a sweet sherry or...
Yeah,
he shouldn't be having whiskey. That's his favourite one.
That is just... it's so Moorish.
Give him some Baileys.
Nobody likes Baileys.
Oh, I'll have some Baileys. Right, shut up.
I thought we were talking about the characters.
Let's talk about what actually happened. So, on Monday, Steve hasn't come back. He's still walking the Pennines or whatever he is doing.
I don't know what's
He's found a pub
I
or
hope
something
you're okay,
like that.
Simon Gregson.
He's having a walk. He's doing a gump. Tracy's worried. Says to
Is
call
he
back
going
to
to
you.
come back with a giant beard?
He's going to come back with
say,
like...
I'm tired now. I think I'll go home.
I can imagine him saying that. Right, Tracy's worried, but Ken says give him some time to grieve. Remember his kids died. Remember that story that we had?
Yeah, what's going on with Leanne? Still stuck in her flat?
Oh, seemingly. Peter's still drinking. And Ken's thinks he's going to do something about this.
Yes, he actually says he's going to do something, and Deirdre, smiling down from him above, going,
at last.
Which is right, Ken.
Yeah.
Do something.
Do something. That something is delivering posters to the rovers like he's a wanted man.
So helpful.
Wanted for crimes against whiskey. Do not give this man any alcohol. It literally says do not serve this man and a picture of his face. You could have done with this.
But if he wants some pork scratchings, that's okay.
You could have done with putting this up in Harrods at one point.
Yeah, for you.
She's got a credit card, but it doesn't mean she's got money. Stop giving her shoes. Peter comes back home later. He looks a bit worse for wear. He doesn't want to talk. He sort of stumbles up the stairs. And Ken talks to Adam later and he says, I feel a bit useless. Adam says...
I'm giving out my posters. I'm out of ideas.
I've tried one thing and I'm all out of ideas. Adam, the continual advice everyone's trying to say to Ken is he's got to save himself. You can't rescue him.
Solve a couple of word problems, Ken. Just get like some letters and arrange them into different words on a grid, and that usually gives you the inspiration to do all manner of tasks around the house.
It's mostly decorating, isn't it? It's not, can't really do much with the... Oh, thank you for completing this word search. My son is now no longer an alcoholic.
Earn 3 stars. Take out the booze from the alcohol cabinet. Sorted.
Suggest that, why don't you? So... Yeah, Ken feels hopeless, really. So they decide they're going to go on Peter watch and they're going to trail him and wherever he goes, make sure that he doesn't have any alcohol. And Tracy's like, no, you're crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is the other thing about alcohol, is that it's just so accepted and it's so dangerous. Like, even if you were, like, a smoker, you couldn't, like, smoke yourself, like, literally, well, they go, right, if you smoke another cigarette, you'll die. It's not how it works with, you can get really bad lung disorders and stuff, and you can be, like, on death's door and smoking away, but it's not like it kills you the way that alcohol kills you.
I don't know enough about it to say.
Maybe I'm being ignorant, but it's also the same with, like, if you get addicted to drugs. There's only a few places you can get hard drugs. I know Roy sells them under the counter. But you know what I mean? You can go anywhere, get it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can get it delivered to your house now.
Mm.
How would you be able to stop somebody?
Yeah.
You couldn't. You can't. Peter goes out again. Adam gets his coat, follows him. I think he loses him. Or does he?
No, I think he stays with him. We don't get to see any of it, obviously.
Well, Peter
because
comes
they
home.
Can't film off the set.
Well, I mean, tailing somebody, the ultimate social distancing, if they want to record them skulking up and down the street. He calls up the stairs. He's unhappy. He's been followed all evening, but I don't remember if he actually drinks or finds any alcohol, or if he gets
he
annoyed.
did. He was. So
plastered. What the hell was Adam doing then?
I think the idea is just to make sure that he doesn't do anything silly. He doesn't,
like drinking?
Drink himself and pass out, or if he, if he passes out in a pool of his own sickened blood, Adam's there to, pick him up and take him home.
I don't really see the point, unless you're going to stop them from.
But I think this is the thing, they're saying you can't. It's literally, it's Peter's at a stage, it's a self-destructive stage, it's impossible to stop him, but at least we can do is keep an eye on him. It's like when a baby starts to walk, you can't stop them walking, but you can put a gate at the top of the stairs so they don't go tumbling to their death.
You can say, for your own safety and the safety of others, I think it's probably better if you never learn how to walk, because then you'll never fall over.
Right, legs out, let's get the hacksaw.
Yep. This is the best way. This is for your own good.
Jack's fine on Coronation Street. I know we haven't seen him for a year. Don't forget. Don't think about that.
He's playing on his Xbox. On Wednesday, Peter is huffing and puffing, writing a goodbye letter to Simon on the table. I couldn't believe that he was writing this. It's kind of like a goodbye note, wasn't it, to Simon? He wasn't even doing it on good paper. He was just writing it in a notebook.
I know. I could imagine
tearing it out. Rubbish. Carla finds him.
That's how they do it in the Navy. He's probably going to stick it in a bottle and throw it overboard.
I don't think that's how they communicate with their family. Carla finds Peter drinking water in the Rovers, and she sits down for a chat because she's still begging for forgiveness and blaming herself
for
shagging Adam and making Peter sad and alcoholic. And she says she's tired. She wants to draw a line under everything. Have you forgiven me for sleeping with Adam? And he's like, I don't even care. I'm not going to promise to stop drinking.
They kind of have made up at this point. He doesn't. Yeah, you're right. He's at the stage where it's just like whatever. Where his.
Well, he's
and
happy
he
that
doesn't recognise. She doesn't recognise the signs, does he?
Yeah, he's kind of like, I might as well forgive you because I'm gonna die. So
yeah.
And he's like, it's all my fault, but I'm kind of relieved that we're on better terms, I guess.
He was pretty tearful at the end of that scene. He was good this week, our Chris, wasn't he? Did a good job for his birthday.
Yeah, now Roy comes in.
No, Roy's already there.
Roy's
in the
there.
Cafe.
I don't understand what happens now.
This is the bit where he's like, right, Carla, did you hear what Peter was saying to you there? When he forgave you? Hayley forgave me once. No. What was the story? It was something about him. Roy used to get OCD-ish about his knife block and the order the knives are in it. And Hayley was having a go at him about it. And then just before the day before she killed herself, she said, I feel really guilty. No, oh gosh, I don't.
She said, do you know what? You can put as many knives in whatever order you want because I won't be here to worry about it.
She says she wishes she hadn't constantly gone on to him about the knife block thing because if I copped it and I hadn't said sorry about that, then I'd feel really guilty.
So basically he's saying...
Peter is saying, he's forgiving you. So
Roy is saying... Often people want to tie up loose ends before they leave.
Yes, it was that basically. That took me about a minute to try and explain.
And Carla's like, what, is he going to Spain or something?
Carla rushes out the door because when you decide you want to go to Spain, you're gone.
She gets a passport.
No, she thinks he's gone to take his own life.
She rushes to number one because she kind of puts it together that it seems like he was saying goodbye. And she's crying as usual. He's like, oh no, I'm fine. This isn't a suicide note at all. It's just a normal letter you might write to your son, telling them how much of a bad father you are.
He calls it a farewell letter, doesn't he? She at first she thinks it's all right, then she notices there's this note and a vodka bottle on the table, and it's like,
Yeah. He says, look, it's a farewell letter, not a suicide note. And she says, it's the same thing. You don't need to do it. You just need to stop drinking. And he's like, what's the point? What's the point? I've already, it was too late. It's,
I'm on no turning back now. I'm on a one-way trip to that big old off licence in the sky.
I don't think he said that.
He did not say that.
This reminds me of that horrible... I remember, I used to watch... I think it was Casualty. I didn't used to watch it very much, but I do remember watching an episode where somebody overdosed on I want to say ibuprofen or it was a paracetamol.
Can you do that? I suppose you can.
Of course you can.
Of course you can.
You idiot.
That's why they only let you have one packet at a time.
You're not supposed to take... They're very, very dangerous. Incredibly dangerous.
Okay.
You be sensible.
They shouldn't make them... They got a nice coating on.
No. But it's such a bad thing to overdose on that even if you go and get medical help, there's nothing they can do. You just die. And you sort of change your mind halfway through and that's it. I
have heard of this actually. I don't know whether it's ibuprofen or not, but I've heard stories like this.
I remember watching
and it's like,
an episode. I think it was that, and they were sort of crying and saying about
save me.
Yeah, and it's hopeless and depressing. And there was also I don't know if anyone's seen the documentary about the Golden Gate Bridge, where in San Francisco, where it's quite a popular suicide spot, isn't it?
Oh gosh, this is turning depressing. Is it the people who regret it halfway?
We should have a trigger warning, but I'm not trying to depress people. What I'm saying is, people who survive that jump say, once they started to jump, they realised that literally every problem that they had that led them to that point was solvable, except the problem they just created, which was that they were jumping off a bloody bridge and they were going to die. Like, that's the problem you can't get over when you make that decision. Everything else is fixable. But hey... Anyway, he's not depressed. Is he depressed? I don't know. Would you call this being suicidal?
Alcohol is a depressant?
I don't know. It's really difficult to talk about.
Peter is pretty suicidal at the moment. I don't think that's, it's out there to say that. He has kind of given up. He's been flagrantly drinking as an act of defiance almost to Carla and everybody who's telling him, no, don't drink, one more drink and you'll die. And we've seen him go,
there's kind of like this kind of triumph of control over finally having control over his addiction is that he is allowed he's allowed himself to do it, and he's kind of happy that he's in control of himself. I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking ownership over like the meaning of this story and what he's thinking because of like I identify even slightly with him. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to understand what he is thinking, and as I am trying to work through it in my mind, I'm going to say stupid things. And people who are listening who've been through these situations will listen and think this is stupid or ignorant.
This podcast is an unedited stream of consciousness for the two of us. That's why it's so long.
But you make mistakes when you're trying to put yourself in other people's shoes. And watching the soap is about putting yourself in someone's situation where you know that you wouldn't necessarily be in that situation, and thinking how would you react. And trying to make sense of people's emotions, and this is all overblown and very melodramatic, this situation in general, but it is a very fascinating, and I'm just surprised how much I'm still finding this fascinating, considering how often he's been to this point. In the story, Peter, this is not an unfamiliar story for Carla or Peter.
No.
But are you kind of feeling like you're over it a bit more than I am? Because I feel like
I'm over it more than you are for sure. But I am still, curious about it. I'm not thinking completely. Oh no, not again. Carla,
we keep saying
Carla
like...
whining, I kind of am over. But the Peter side of it, I am still like. Yeah, I want to know what's going to happen here. And Chris is putting in such a fantastic performance. It really, really does help. And it is fascinating seeing this guy who is, despite being told that he's one drink away from death, is just knocking him back and trying to get under the skin of somebody. Why would you do that? And is it because it's like to do with control and everything? It is quite interesting. It really, really is. And having Ken involved as well is amazing. Every time they wheel out Ken for, a proper story, I am just more and more in awe of him. Because really, if you look at some of the older golden oldies on the street, I'm talking Audrey, I'm talking Rita, I mean even people like Gail and everything, they're not really given, the big meaty stories to play a serious role in, are they? Rita doesn't have that much to do anymore. Audrey and Gail are still more on the comedy side. To varying levels of success, but yeah, William Roach can still do a fantastic job with the hard dramatic stories. I'm in awe of him. I really, really am. I think he is amazing. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. Where are we?
Yeah. Carla tears up his note.
Yeah.
Oh no, she screws. No, she doesn't. She screws it up, doesn't she? She comes and reads it again.
Really
later.
could have done without Carla this whole week. I'm really sorry, but I felt like she just upped the ante, didn't she? And I don't think the story needed her to do it. I think that really Peter and Ken could have carried this story without Carla's help at all. I just felt like she added a soapy element that felt too over dramatic, because I found the way she inserted herself into this really frustrating, because she screws up the note. She says it's a suicide note. He's crying. He says he can't cope. She tears the note up and leaves. Comes back with Simon and says, "Read the note to him then. If it's for him, why don't you read it to him now while he's still here?" And then he refuses, so she reads it out, and it's a very personal letter that wasn't to her at all. It was to Simon for a start, and it's saying, "I dear Simon, I love you. I'm so sorry I was a bad parent. The fight was too hard and I've given up." Simon, as you might imagine, incredibly damaged already, is furious, reacts really badly to this, says, "If you really love me, you would do any of this," gets upset, and Carla's
he's mad at Peter. He's not mad at Carla here, is he?
No.
He's mad at Peter for seemingly being ready to take the coward's way out
Carla's
in his eyes.
using Simon to emotionally blackmail Peter into stop drinking, and it will not work. And all she's done is traumatise Simon, in my opinion. So she says, "Oh well, I needed to do this to prove a letter wouldn't make him understand what you're going through. The only thing you need to do is stop drinking." He's like, "What a great idea! No one suggested that so far, genius." He's livid, and she says,
No, he says,
"You robbed me of my chance to explain things on my own terms." And she says, "You're a coward, and I'm the only person who's brave enough to tell you the truth." That's rubbish. Everyone's been telling him this the whole time. Peter is not surrounded by sycophants and enablers, is he?
No.
He storms off. Ken finds Simon and he tells them everything. Carla shows up, and I think Ken calls her cruel.
Yeah.
And then they go and look around for him, because God knows where he is or what he's drinking. Poor old Simon is not coping with this. Ken finds Peter in Ray's hotel, and he's given up again. And Ken says, "Let's have a family meeting, and let you stop drinking now." And Peter says, "The only thing I've inherited from you is a decent head of hair," which is nothing to sniff at. He's not interested in Ken guilt tripping him, but then Ken takes his drink and pours it away. And so Peter punches him on the nose. And Peter gets really ashamed of himself. And Ken says, "Look, I still love you." They go back home together. And Carla sees Peter come back. And he doesn't want anything to do with her. You know, in the space of one episode, they've made up and broken up again. They're not like get back together, but they're not talking to one another anymore. Ken tells Carla that if her plan didn't, basically she drove him off to the hotel again to get drunk, and he said, "If I hadn't found him, he'd be dead. And this is 50 years ago today that my wife died. So how insensitive are you?" And Carla's like, "To be fair, I don't listen to Conversation Street, so I don't know about this. I haven't watched the DVDs."
I wonder how much that particular anniversary played into the timing of this. Was it a kind of a lucky coincidence, and maybe they changed it by a week or so just so that they could. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, it was kind of impactful, but it also in a way wasn't. I think
I think it was a nice reference, but that. Because it wasn't the first time they mentioned it, when it was just Peter saying, "Oh, on a day like today, he did, and it was the second time it came up when Carla's talking to Carla, when he says, "Yeah, this is the day when my wife died." But I would have liked to have seen them pay tribute to Val properly, even if it had just been Ken sitting there on his chair looking at that photo of them or something.
What, the photo of her with the head her in her hand?
No. It just felt like it was a bit of a throwaway. I think for a 50-year anniversary, they could have done something.
I really
don't know.
wish
I don't know.
that he'd at least looked at a picture at the end of Val.
Yeah.
She was great. I loved Val.
I definitely grew to like Val. I thought she was very bland at first, but by the time she'd left, it's like,
she's a really
decent
character.
She was. And, Anne Reid's still living it up.
Anne Reid could have done a little.
They could have had a little Anne Reid cameo.
It's me from heaven. Don't come here, it's rubbish.
Right.
On Friday, we have a very shocking opening, didn't we?
It totally was. Now, listeners, we haven't told you the story of our televisual woes this evening. Turn on the TV, 7:27. The Virgin Media box doesn't want to switch on. Panic. We've got to watch Coronation Street. It's an hour-long one. So if we don't get to watch this, we have to wait an hour until we can watch it on ITV Player.
And then we've got to
reset
the podcast.
Delay the podcast. Yeah. Gemma's in the kitchen trying to rush making dinner so it's ready in time for 7:30. Turn on the iPad. Download the ITV Player app because it needed reinstalling. Just about able to catch the beginning of the episode. Like, you're in the kitchen, I'm holding the iPlayer to you, and we kind of missed, I think, the big impact that this seizure had, because neither of us were particularly watching. Because usually an episode of Coronation Street starts with a little slow establishing shot, somebody in the cafe or something, and this literally started with Peter there seizing on the floor, foam coming out of his mouth. That was a very convincing seizure, I have to say. That was a good one. There was no. I'm saying there's no humour in that, but why wouldn't there be?
Why do you always say this?
No, there was
no humour in it. It was really dramatic.
Sometimes, when some actors try to do something serious and dramatic, you can go, they're acting. But with this...
You're terrible.
With this, it's like, blimey.
You're terrible.
And the camera was right above him, and you could see the smashed crockery around him on the kitchen floor. It was proper good. And then Ken comes into the lounge and goes, Peter!
Yeah.
Shall I run over to you? No, I'd better not. Phone the hospital instead. Are you all right in there, Peter? Sorry, I can't come near you.
So Carla can't
play a word game. Earn 3 stars. Clean up my son.
Clean up the husband. Carla can't sleep, and she is filled with regret for what she did the other day. I know I'm criticising her. I can imagine that she's at this point just desperate to try anything, and she knows that wasn't really the best move. Now, it's always easy to work that out afterwards. Roy tries to get to see reason and says, maybe you might have reached him. I don't know. I don't know why nobody seems to care about blimmin' Simon in this.
Well, Simon just kind of mysteriously disappears from this story halfway through Wednesday's episode, because he has that scene where he's there up against the rainy window, which I thought was quite an effective use of rain. And I feel a bit sorry for Simon, really. And he's saying, I hate me dad.
I feel so sorry for Simon. We spend how old is he?
He is 17.
So, I can't remember how old he was when he came in it, 5 or something?
Something like that.
We spent 12 years watching this kid get abused and treated like crap, going through traumatic times, terrible,
life with Leanne
times, people dying, fires, abuse.
He's had the most useless father.
And still we're like, why is Simon so angry all the time?
I know.
Poor kid.
His brother's just died a few months ago.
And his brother's died, and his dad is killing himself.
And his mum has turned into a hermit.
Yeah, yes, and he's having to cook a cheesy pasta.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
He's going through a rough time, his old Si.
Poor
Give
old
him a
Simon.
bit of slack.
Still inherently unlikable. but suffering nonetheless. Peter, Daniel and Ken are all in the hospital.
Tell you what, I think the reason maybe why we like this with Simon is when David went through all this trauma, it moulded him into the fantastic character which he is now.
And he also went on a comical axe rampage, which is good fun.
He channeled his trauma into becoming demon entertaining child and terrible teenager extraordinaire, whereas Simon's just a bit irritating and sulky.
Oh, it's not fair. So the doctors are saying, we said he shouldn't drink. Well, flip it. He should drink a bit.
Yeah. Write that up on the prescription.
They do. They have to keep it in hospital, alcohol. This is why I found it quite annoying in a way when we had lockdown. Lots of different countries, almost every single country were like, right, lockdown, essential shops only, supermarkets and off licenses, and everyone was going, oh, why are they allowed off licenses? It's not fair. It's silly. People die if they don't drink alcohol. There are a lot more alcoholics than you might think. And it is essential for them. They would...
But you can get alcohol in the supermarkets.
You can, but not everyone's near a supermarket or has transport to get to a supermarket. Like if you lived... Well, say you lived here, for example, in this house that you live in, and you didn't have a car...
I do.
You'd have to walk up to the off licence.
Oh, there's lots of places. Anyway, I'm not getting into that.
I'm telling you... Well, in some places you can't... You have to go to an off licence.
Yeah, fine.
I'm saying...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
People forget that... Honestly, we should just ban it. Look how well that went the first time.
Oh, yeah, but prohibition, that's what we need.
That's what we need. Just to add pandemic and prohibition all in one. Let's just sort the wheat from the chaff here, shall we? So...
I'd be fine. I'd feel so smug.
You would. We have to fill out our health forms, don't we? And it's like, how many units of alcohol do you drink? Look, the first time we ever filled out the first time we ever got a mortgage, we had to fill out our health insurance thing. The lady who did our forms would not believe that Michael didn't drink. Do you remember that?
No, I know.
She's like, oh, so I'll just put down so I put down 4 units a week? And we're like, no, he doesn't drink. She's like, I'll put down 2. It's like, I don't think you're listening to what is being said.
Yeah, we had to redo our life insurance this week. And we've got wills now, haven't we? That's very exciting life development. We feel like proper grown-ups now. We've got will forms filled out. It's very depressing. We had to decide who we were going to bequeath our fortunes to and who be our executors and everything.
Yeah, and I told my mum and she got really upset.
Did she?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna die. Just if you get stuff.
We had to say whether we had any requests for songs or poems or anything at our funeral.
No, I'm too fickle.
Not now. We'll do that later.
I'm too fickle to think to set something in stone.
Yes, but it's.
I want a sea shanty. Anyway, so.
Do you want a burial at sea?
Oh yes. I'll be fired into the sun. No, I want a very respectful service. Thank you very much.
I want to be buried in the Coronation Street graveyard.
Yeah. Do you think we can arrange that?
Maybe.
I don't know how much that costs. Right, so let's get on with the actual story that we're supposed to be talking about.
Sorry, yes.
A sudden withdrawal
New character
could kill Peter, so he has to drink a little bit. Then Carla comes across Lucas, who is an old factory friend from down in Devon, but he's Irish.
Yeah, I kind of... I missed what the actual relationship between them two was, but... Yeah, they knew each other when she went down to Devon.
Yeah, when she escaped off to Devon to open a tea room, and they reminisce, and she gets on really well, and they basically get on
nice
okay.
Chat and remember good old times, basically.
Roy is given the chalice of whiskey that he has to keep in his house because they're scared of leaving it in number 1. So they kind of like measure out how much he's allowed. I wonder how they do this. I wonder if they just go, right, how much you drink now, and then they just reduce it, or if there's like some kind of chart with, you know, the weight and the age and how much you drink, and you know.
I'm sure it's very scientific.
I don't know if it is. Not a lot of medical stuff is. You'd be surprised. So Carla rushes around. Peter doesn't want to see her there. She says, "Oh, let me help you." He says, "Leave." Nina says to Roy that Carla was wearing a date outfit and she doesn't let the grass grow. She goes to lunch with Lucas. Roy brings Peter a quiche and says that hot quiche is better than cold quiche, and I completely disagree. At my funeral, I would only like cold quiche to be served.
It's too late. We sent the forms off. We said we had
no requests. I told you I was going to... No, I said I was going to make... I read it on the internet. It said, you may wish to have a page of your wishes in addition. You don't need to put it in your actual will.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Then.
So, cold quiche, please. He says, I'm not leaving, and he sits and tries to lecture him, and Peter says, I'm not really interested in hearing from you at the moment, and Roy says... I think your bird's off with another guy. And Peter's like, what? And Roy says, you got to admit to yourself that you need her support, even if you don't like the idea.
I thought Roy was just brilliant in that scene. When he was like, Peter was like saying, thank you very much, off you go then, Roy. And, you know, Roy is not the best at picking up on subtle social cues at the best of times. He knows at this point, I've come here because I've got something to say, so I'm just going to forget that.
Until I say
and I'm going to sit that down on this sofa here and I'm going to say my thing. But he was brilliant. And you don't get much of Roy and Peter having scenes together, do you?
No.
Sometimes you have two characters and it's like, have you ever been in a scene together?
Yeah,
but I thought that
really
was
interesting.
Just great, that was. I really didn't appreciate that.
So Carla and Lucas are talking about old times, and she puts her foot right in it by talking about his annoying girlfriend who turns out to be dead of a drug overdose. And it's a fairly obvious sort of similarity between her and Peter and Lucas and his girlfriend, because they both were addicts, and they make quite a few parallels, and Carla's sort of realising things as she's listening, and Lucas is saying stuff. I think he's saying things like, there's nothing I could have done, or I can't remember, but he's kind of talking about his...
I'm a new character, so I thought I'd better have a tragic or mysterious dark past just so I can fit in with the rest of you around here. Is this okay, dead girlfriend? Robert had one of those, didn't he? But he's not in it anymore, so I'm just going to step into his shoes here.
Well, he's basically like, hello, I'm symbolising what you could have.
Look at me, I'm so charming. It's me, Lucas from Devon.
He's
Come with me to a hotel and look at the views.
Shut up. He's the self-indulgent, come and treat yourself, have a nice roll in the hay, have somebody who cares about you just for 5 minutes. Just come and have a shag. Why don't you? Kind of mirage. And she's forgotten, seemingly, that this is what got her in trouble in the first place.
Nice text messages as well.
Like, oh, you had nice boobs today. Wink.
Oh, they were smashing.
No. So, meanwhile, they leave each other and sort of say, oh, it would be great to meet up another time. Then we get Peter and Ken, and this was really another bit where I really felt bad for Peter, because he's sitting at the table, he's got his little measure of whiskey, everyone's watching him like, oh, the addict has to have his medicine, and he's feeling embarrassed and humiliated, and he doesn't want to drink this in front of everybody because, again, he's not in control anymore. This is one of the things, this is what is kind of driving some of his addiction at the moment, is control, and now he's lost control again and he's being forced to drink it. So maybe you should have just been contrary to him all along. Just been like, oh, you like alcohol, do you, Peter? I'm going to make you a mojito. How'd you like that?
This scene was an odd one because it had some unusual sound effects, didn't it?
You said to me, is that on the TV?
Yeah, it was. What was it? It was just.
It felt like I was watching Silent Hill, and they were about to like go into the other.
It was some kind of otherworldly,
weird,
low,
dizzy,
kind of like.
Yeah, and so he's having a bit of a turn, and it wasn't apparent to me whether it was Ken or Peter that was feeling this, because Ken was having a bit of a funny turn himself.
And
he said, "Oh, I think I've forgotten my blood pressure," and Peter drinks his whiskey.
Yeah, and then that's when the sound effects.
So I don't know if it's Ken going, "Thank God for that," or Peter saying, "Ooh, whiskey."
I think that was Peter.
Right. Later on,
I don't know what's going on with Ken there.
Yeah, Ken's like, don't forget about this, everybody. This will come up later. This will be on the test. Lucas calls around to see Carla in the cafe and says, I've booked a hotel. And he winks. He doesn't quite, but he might as well have been. It would be really nice if I had some company. Roy talks to Carla and tries to get her not to give up on Peter. And she says, we're no good for each other. Or is she talking about Lucas and saying we are good for each other? She's basically saying, I've got this nice bloke and a nice normal life and a nice normal relationship and a nice weekend I could have. Or I could go hang out with Peter and be depressed and feel so bad and watch him die.
No, Carla, I would say...
what do you think I should do?
If there's a shot at you going back to the old Carla and all it takes is going off with Lucas, then I say full steam ahead. Have a crack.
Pack your best undies and get in there, girl.
Go and kiss that Blarney Stone.
Oh dear. So, Peter sees Carla trying to leave, and he stops her and he says, "I can't do this without you. Please support me." Sounds like he's going to run the marathon. Just need a pound a mile. Carla goes to meet Lucas at the tram stop with a bag, and she says, "I can't go. Someone needs me." And then it looks like he manages to persuade her, but then she turns up.
Fake out.
Because Daniel's like, no, Peter's moping about.
Yeah, he's out the back at number one.
It's all my fault. I never forgot. I never forgave Carla. Now it's too late. And then she says, "Not too late. Hooray! It's me."
Yeah,
and she
comes
comes
quite
back.
A nice ending. It's very cheesy.
I guess Carla's role here, because I was complaining and saying she's superfluous, but really, her role was to make a story arc out of this.
She's his little anchor, his little lighthouse, isn't she?
Your little anchor.
It was sweet.
Sweet.
When she came back, it almost felt like it was over too soon. I would have quite liked some nice romantic stuff rather than just saying, "Padam, it's me, Carla." End.
I just want them to draw a line under this and move on, but they never will. Like, it feels as though ever since it was revealed that Carla slept with Adam, it's been, "Oh, I forgive you. No, I don't. Here's some whiskey. Oh, I forgive you. No, I don't. Here's some whiskey. It's all your fault. No, it's my fault. I'm sorry. No, you're sorry. No, it's some whiskey." You know?
Yeah, so although this made for a satisfying ending
it does
to a
feel
turbulent
as though
week,
on Monday he could say, "I don't forgive you anymore. I've just remembered."
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's
nothing particularly about this moment that, to me, as a viewer, says reset. You know,
no,
and that's what I really want out of this. I mean, I'm not a massive Carla and Peter fan. I'm not like against them as a couple, but I'm not invested.
I think that they're great as a couple if they haven't got all this stupid drama. I think that Ali and Chris have got great chemistry together on screen. They've been through the ringer together, and when they are, when they haven't got their issues, they make a great power couple. Actually, I think. Don't think so. They feel like they fit together to me, but they don't seem to be able to just let them happily get on.
No, they can't. Any couple that they think are popular, they will wreck.
Yeah, let's test, see how strong their relationship is. And when it happens for so long, you think, was there? And so often, was their relationship ever strong?
Yeah.
What does a strong relationship mean anymore? Because everybody has their relationship tested on this show, it seems. Anyway, so pretty good stuff this week. We've been discussing this as we go. Is there, you get anything that
I don't think
that we haven't said already?
No, but I do want to say that this obviously, this story.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I was just going to say about Carla reading out that letter and whether you thought that whether she was right or wrong to do this.
She was wrong
because of the
impact on Simon. I think that was really out of order. Simon's still a young boy,
almost an adult, but still traumatized
17
enough.
Years old. He's not. He's a baby.
I can almost see that Carla is so desperate that she would resort to methods that I think that she knows isn't right, because she thinks there's nothing else I can do and I will take a shot at anything here.
I understand.
And as she was doing it, I was like going, yeah, I think maybe you should do this, Carla. It was only afterwards when I thought about it, it's like, no, actually that's a bit out of order. But when you feel desperate, you don't necessarily think through that.
I can understand her instinct, and if she's thinking to herself, This is life or death. I need Peter to know if I can reach him with this, it will prevent him from dying. Of course, if you thought that, then you would. But all she's doing is sacrificing Simon's mental health.
Yeah.
And we talk about mental health, and we're, as a society, trying to destigmatise it and talk about.
Here's a fact, Gemma. Next week is Children's Mental Health Awareness Week.
Oh, well, baby Carla should have thought about that, shouldn't she? But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was going to mess Simon up for the rest of his life. If he wasn't already hopelessly
mixed up. Maybe that's what she thought. It's like, you can't get any worse.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
It was for the drama.
It was, and I think maybe it did just seem odd that Simon was, plucked out of the story later in the week.
Simon's been let down by Peter so many times. I'm surprised. This is going to mess him up.
He's also given up on Peter so many times, hasn't he? He said, "Oh, I hate you, Dad."
I think if you come from a stable family, you might not realise how. Well, you must be able to rationalise in your mind how terrifying it must be to be a child whose parents can't be trusted.
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely.
Like, we both come from really stable families, but I've had in my family seen children who've had to grow up with their parents just a mess, and what it's done to them, it's ruined their lives.
Oh yeah. When I've been a teacher for 15 years, so I've seen and heard my fair share of things.
But you can see it happening. That's the tragedy. But you can see it happening to these children. And I'm sitting here and saying how bad I feel for Peter. It's Simon the true victim, because he has no control over this. He's completely at the mercy of the adults in his life, and they're all failing him.
I wonder whether Simon will end up getting some kind of addiction to something, or whether he is going to be in some way permanently scarred, because it feels like sometimes every time that he gets knocked back by Peter, he kind of comes back, and he's not like young, innocent, lovely, happy-go-lucky young Simon like he used to be, but he goes through stages where he's kind of nice and normal. I wonder whether there could be some kind of permanent scarring that Peter inflicts on his son and has to live with and see for the rest of his life, and think, I did that to my boy. And I don't know what that can be, whether it is a physical scar, whether it's some kind of addiction or something. Could be quite interesting, because it's about time that maybe Simon had a proper old story of his own, and I mean, Alex Bain's obviously an adult now, so they can use him in as much as they choose to, and Simon himself is going to be 18, so over the next few years we're going to start seeing adult Simon. He's going to be able to go and get his first legal drink in 6 months' time, and I think that could be quite a key scene maybe in his life, and whether he will, one to watch maybe.
Well, like we mentioned earlier when we were talking about David, and we said, what impact his upbringing had on him, and to be fair to Gail, she was always tried her best to be a good parent. I think she in general was.
Yeah.
But you can't say the same for Peter.
No, definitely not. Leanne's tried her best, though, hasn't she?
She's given up on life in general at the moment, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, can I? Oh, go on. What?
No.
I do want to move on. I want to talk about the punch. We kind of skipped over that earlier.
Stunt what?
What did you think of that? Did you know that it was going to happen?
No.
Sadly, on Wednesday we were about 5 minutes or so behind with watching it, and I can't remember why. But I was having to be scrolling through Twitter, and I saw people saying, "Oh my gosh, Peter just punched Ken." And I wish I hadn't, because I even looked at the synopsis after we'd watched it, and it didn't mention that. Like, Peter loses it with Ken or something. I wish I had been shocked by that punch, because it was a good one. It was a nice, socially distanced stuntman punch, but like,
what a blow!
Yeah, and Ken's been on the receiving end and the dealing end of a good number of punches over the year, and to have this 81-year-old guy, well, William Roach is even older than that, still involved in big fight scenes like this, and like, oh, you don't do that to Ken. It's not cricket, Peter.
No,
great stuff.
You've run amok
too far. Okay, Lucas. Just before we move on, what did you reckon?
We see him again?
I kind of would like to. But I wonder whether we won't, because I was watching him and I was thinking, I quite like you, Lucas.
Yeah, unfortunately
for
him, this is his accent.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, he's inserted himself in a story where he's very not welcome, both from people who are super into the relationship of Carla and Peter, and everyone else who just wants him to bloody get on with it. Because all it is another complication in that relationship that we don't need in the middle of another really massive dramatic storyline. That's like, you don't need to embellish this further. It's enough.
I mean, his role literally was, Carla, you can take yourself away from and come over and have this perfect life with me, charming
just
old
not even a perfect
Lucas.
life, just a weekend away from worrying about
go and have a dirty weekend, Carla. But he was written to be lovely, and I think, I don't know if he stays as a permanent character, whether he will stay like that, because I could imagine him like maybe coming back and trying to lure Carla away from Peter again, and they're just trying to get things back on track and everything, and Lucas, tries to insert himself and say, "Oh, he's no good for you, Carla."
You don't need to keep doing the accent.
I can't help it. I'd like him to stay, and actually,
for what reason?
I don't know.
He'd just be there in the background, and I was so mad at Carla when she had her bags with her and she was going off to the tram stop, and she's like, "Oh, okay." It's like, no, why? This is what you did in the first place. What is wrong with you? Are you on some medication that makes you super randy or something? You need to change your pills, love.
He did just say we don't need to. You can just come and look at the views with me.
Oh yeah, the view of what?
The
hairy pool sack.
Oh, gross! I was going to say the bedroom ceiling. No, it just I could see her being tempted by just away a few days away.
If I was Carla, you could have lured me away with a bargain bucket. To be honest, never mind a nice hotel.
I just think
and
that
a
this
minibar.
came across to me as being one of those actors where I go, oh, this is an interesting side character. I will keep him.
He may well come back, but I don't need him in this story.
Yeah.
Go and shag Maria or something.
We also got a press release for our email a couple of weeks ago saying this actor was going to be in Corrie as one of Carla's old friends. It's like we never get anything like that. We get once a week, we get the press release from Coronation Street saying, here's some synopses for episodes in 2 weeks' time. Don't look at them, they're spoilers. But somehow somebody sent us this.
We also recently have started getting emails from podcasting businesses going, join our collective of podcasts, or like, here's an idea for how to make your customers something, or
we have it. It's only been
weird, isn't it?
Every so often we've got little ones like this.
Because we're getting in the charts.
Independent, that's what we are. No ads.
Too much.
No spoilers. No ads. Right, Ray's story. So this was getting.
I just want to say, I already said this, but there is obviously a very sensitive topic. I'm going to make sure that we put a trigger warning in before we start talking about this, so that you guys will have already heard that, hopefully, about the things that we've spoken about. But I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking it lightly, and I'm sorry if my attempts to understand it are slightly clumsy to people who are going through this, and my heart goes out to you if this is something that is a very personal experience to you, and I don't want to disrespect your experience, but trying to talk about it is very difficult, and I'm not always going to get it right, so...
Can you do one of those apologies for me as well? Because you always seem so genuine and lovely when you say that, and I am.
I don't want anyone to listen to this
the both of us
and think that there's any malicious intent behind it. But obviously, ignorance can be harmful. So if anything I said is wrong, just let me know. But hopefully we can talk about things that are slightly less dark and a bit more campy now, because that's why we really like Corrie. We like it for the silliness and the overblown soapy stuff, which Michael's going to tell you about now.
Last week's Corrie was great, wasn't it? And it was all because of this Debbie and Ray story, which we were left on a bit of a cliffhanger last week with Abby going into hospital. Debbie, has she done away with Ray? Nobody knows where Ray is. Last time we saw, he was cornering her in the kitchen in the bistro. What's going on? Well,
he's going, make me a sandwich.
Unravels
make me a sandwich. And so she killed him, which is, you're right, as a woman.
Monday's episode.
If a man asks you to make him a sandwich.
During Monday's episode, the word starts spreading about Ray and his disappearance. And Debbie is swearing she's innocent in all this. Well, in everything, not just Ray's disappearance, but
she's like, God damn it!
But the whole thing about the bribery with the councilwoman and everything. And also, I didn't know anything about Ray being, a bit too rapey. I thought he was just a bit of a charmer.
There's definitely a massive difference.
I know he's got his way with the ladies,
but I tell you what, I keep saying, as a society, but in our culture, we have really struggled to draw a distinction between massive rapist and a bit charming with the ladies.
Yeah, we really
and
do.
I
need
think
to work
now,
on that.
yeah, we're working on it.
So she doesn't want Ray to have anything more to do with this building project either. And by the way, she says, I don't know where he is. So Abby comes home from hospital. She didn't stay there for very long.
Because she was drugged by Ray last week and collapsed on the floor of the bistro.
Yeah, she wants
and she has no memory, does she?
Not quite. She wants to keep on pushing things and making sure that Ray gets brought to justice. It's not over till it's over, she says. Also, the question is posed, who rang the ambulance that came and rescued me? Who could it be? We find out from Roy that this chairperson that Ray bribed has been arrested. The council is having an emergency meeting to find out what's going to go on with this planning permission, and it will likely be refused. So hooray, that's lovely. This is when Abby starts to have a bit of a flashback. She goes into the bistro, doesn't she? And she finds this broken glass that Ray fell onto the other day. And then she has a wibbly wobbly flashback and was like, hang on a minute, Debbie, me old matey there, you were there on Friday night, or yesterday, or the other night, or however she referred to it. What's going on? You were there. And Debbie's like, no, I wasn't. That wasn't me. I wasn't there. What are you talking about? And then, okay, fine, it was me. You got me. She says, what was it, the excuse she said? She said, I can't, didn't she say something like she went in there, she found Abby and she said, she did it to herself.
Yeah, she basically...
So I phoned an ambulance and then did
follows...
one.
She's one of the few Coronation Street characters that follows the golden advice of lying is to make yourself look like a terrible person and nobody will think you're lying. She's basically makes out that she's completely hard-hearted and it's socially unacceptable, like druggies bring it on themselves diatribe.
She does also have a little bit of a meltdown moment, doesn't she, where she goes off on one about how much she hates Coronation Street because she was a character in it for about 6 months back in 1984 or whenever it was. And Bill and Kevin used to make me skivvy around and do all the washing up. So now I want to raze this street to the ground. I think that was a bit of a weak reason.
Shut up, Michael.
Why?
I thought this was a really interesting social commentary about how things used to be. She was in it. Was it in the 70s or the 80s? So their mum died.
Yes.
And she was saying, my mum died, and suddenly I'm the woman of the house. I'm the one who has to do the cooking and the cleaning and the skivvying and everything, and I had to cook,
sandwich
round.
And I was
basically the domestic help, and girls like in those days would have been expected to do that.
Yeah, no, I know.
I think she had the right to say, but I think you're also correct as to say there was no evidence of this in the show.
No,
I don't remember that really coming up.
Going from that to I want to see this place demolished.
Razed to the ground, it didn't really make any sense.
I mean, it made sense to me when she was saying, look, progress, yada yada.
I think
business, money and everything. But
would have made a bit more sense if she had said something like, when I was a child and my mother died, all of the domestic responsibilities for the upkeep of the house and everything fell on my shoulders, and therefore, to ensure this never happens again, I've decided to start a scholarship to help young girls whose mothers have died. But that's too difficult, so I'm just going to blow up this side of the street and build a hotel.
She said... this is when Abby spots this suspicious-looking jiffy bag on one of the tables in the cafe, and Debbie admits, after a little bit of persuasion, that it's full of Ray's money. It's everything that she's owed from him. Abby wants to phone the police to dob her in, but Debbie says there's a little bit more to this story, actually, and Abby's starting to suspect at this point that something has happened to Ray, and says, what have you done? Bashed him over the head with a bottle of Dom Perignon? And Debbie's like... No, it wasn't a bottle.
Yeah, that was great.
And at this point, I was like, ooh, she has. She's actually done him in. You go on, girl. That sounds great. But then, as she starts to...
Debbie is the most enigmatic character that's not ever been, but for a good while, you can't get a handle on what she's up to. She always surprises you.
She does, but then I think that they blew it a little bit with with her explanation about what happened, because to me, as she was trying to explain what happened, it felt too far-fetched and too much like this would have made a really exciting scene, and if that had happened and if she wasn't lying, they probably would have tried to show it. Maybe not going to a river, because I don't believe that they've got one of those in Media City.
They've got a canal.
They could have.
So what shipping canal.
What she said happened was that she was trying to ring the ambulance. Ray follows her out of the back door. Before she knows it, his arm is round her throat. She scratches his face, then gets bundled into his car boot. He drives about quarter of an hour or so over to a river. She's in the boot thinking, blimey, as soon as he opens this door, my number's up. I'm going to be, down at the bottom of that river. So I'm going to whack him and kill him. And by the time we got to this, I was like, oh, she's lying. And so when the reveal came later that he was actually there in the grotty bedsit, or wherever it was, I was like, oh, I wish that I'd been more surprised at that. I think that they made her story too far-fetched. And like I said, if Debbie had actually done that, they would have shown some of it.
I was just listening to her recount this, going, this is one of the most... People aren't going to appreciate that this is like one of the most difficult performances of the week, because she's trying to tell the story of something that everyone would really much rather have seen happen than listen to her talking about it, and has to make it sound interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
Like, she had to do a lot of heavy lifting in that scene.
She did. But did you believe her when she was saying it?
No, because I was like, I don't think that Ray's dead, because I think Debbie's going to be in the show for longer than this, and I don't think they would get rid of her because she's a good character.
The fact that
she's too good to waste on a murder.
Yeah, the fact that we've been seeing her redemption and her turning away from the dark side and everything, it's like, oh, they're going to make her a murderer? No. So yeah, they that one was a bit of a whiff. Unfortunately, and it's not too long before we see Debbie go into this bedsit, and now, what do you know, Ray's there, and it looks like his plan is to flee the country. He's going to go and live in Turkey, was it? Which I think, is that where Debbie had a business or something before? I
think she said something about Turkey.
So he's going to get a fake passport, get a one-way plane ticket over there. And he's going to have a little bit of spending money, but basically Debbie's side of the bargain is that she gets all of his businesses off of him.
And at this point...
And she's got Miles round, the solicitor, to draw up all the paperwork, basically.
If it wasn't already patently obvious to everybody, it's inescapable now that Coronation Street has filed coronavirus pandemic in the same... too boring and complicated to bother with any of the details of like moving countries to go and to live and escape your daughter's attacker, or like what's it like to be a teacher, or
they've just got a little
how
bit
does a
of
court case
mini
work?
COVID and Coronation.
They're like, this is too hard. It trashes too many stories. Just get it happen.
Yeah, and I don't mind.
I
still
care.
don't mind.
No, I don't. I just think. It is frustrating because it's one of those things that is in the back of your head. Sometimes when you're watching this, you're like, no. But it's just something you have to accept, because everything in a soap is inherently unrealistic. The fact that they're referencing it,
the fact that they've got masks some of the time,
they live in a
to
parallel
me, it is
universe.
honestly good enough. Where they do
They
live in a parallel universe
listen.
where something like the COVID pandemic has happened, but it's not quite the same.
They live in a parallel universe where Boris Johnson is not Prime Minister. Somebody who's actually competent in charge.
Yeah, and he's doing a better job. Ray is fuming that Miles knows what happened, but Debbie's got him over a barrel, and Miles is saying, oh, you could be looking in for a pretty long prison stretch if this all hits the fan, and if we find out about you trying to rape Ray and you bribing it's already come out that you bribed the counsellor, so you haven't got much choice here, have you? So I loved how Miles just completely turned on him.
I also like the fact that normally on the show on Corrie, they'll be like, the person like Miles will be really boring and not have anything to say, or they'll say something like, I can't be involved in this, and leave, or they'll say, I can't advise you to do that. But he's like, no, I'm actually an evil and corrupt accountant / lawyer, I don't know what I am, but I'm actually evil, so I'll go along with anything as long as I get out of it without getting in trouble myself.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
I think they should have a few more evil and corrupt lawyers / accountants on Coronation Street.
Yeah. He does say to Debbie, look, this is risky business here, because you've admitted to Abby that you killed someone and they're not really dead.
You can get in trouble for perjury.
Yeah. Are you sure you want people going around your Abby, who, has not been on best terms with you recently,
also not
thinking
reliable.
that she's that she knows a deep dark secret, and you bit of a risk.
Yeah, because you can't go, no, he's not dead after all, because that will ruin all of your plans.
Exactly. But Abby, Debbie says, has got as much to lose as she has in all this. I go, why does Abby have much to lose?
Don't know.
She does anyway. So she's fine with it. But I mean, to me, I'm thinking, this is a huge risk. But
this is a gamble, but
yeah.
It seems.
Is it because if Abby admits it now, then the police will say, "Why don't you come speak to us sooner? That means that you're an accessory to this murder."
I think this is. Sorry. I'm enjoying Debbie a lot because she is kind of like Carla used to be, in that she's really ruthless in business. And she's a gambler,
she is a bit,
and she takes risks. And I think she's a really interesting, well-developed character, because everything she does is sort of logical to the personality that they've built up for her.
Yeah.
She's not sentimental. She definitely tries to play fair. She's definitely got a conscience, but you can tell how she's made her money. She just removes any kind of emotion from what she's doing.
She got her eyes on the prize all the time, wasn't she?
All the stuff with what she's doing now, selling stuff back to everybody, feels a bit weird. Like, I don't know why she would particularly do this. That doesn't seem fitting.
I think she's just trying to repair her reputation with the street that she apparently hates.
Yeah, exactly. Everything up till that point with Debbie, as far as I'm concerned, really well conceived.
I suppose if she's like saying, I'm going to inherit all of Ray's businesses and I want to carry on, trading with people, and I don't want to have the reputation of that I currently have, which is the bitch who tried to knock everyone's houses down. I've seen the error of my Rays. Okay. Right, so Wednesday then. Debbie this is when she starts going around telling everybody the whole project's been cancelled. Ray's race to raise the place has stalled before the finishing line. So it's all okay, it's off, everybody. Everything's going to go back to normal. Everyone's going to be able to buy their house back. David's going to be able to get his house back, all sorted. So she basically starts going around everybody over the course of the next 2 episodes, drawing up paperwork. It's very thrilling. So Debbie and Abby thinks that Debbie is a bit of a lifesaver at the moment. This is another reason why she's keeping her secret. That Abby's like, if you hadn't been around to find me on the bistro floor, I could have been dead. So she's like her best bud now. So they're having this celebratory drink in the bistro, and that's when the detective turns up. And
it's a different one.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because I wanted him to go, just one more thing.
It was Ray calls him something. I wrote this down earlier. DS Doodah. I think Ray refers to him later. So DS Doodah comes round and is like, we've just been investigating the 999 call that was made, and it turned out it was you. And
it was you.
Maybe this was. No, Abby did know before this that it was Debbie, didn't she? Because she'd remembered her, but they're keeping it quiet. Anyway, I think this is what happened. I don't know. Anyway, this is where Debbie says, yes, I came in, I saw Abby, I thought she'd overdose and die, so I died 999 and just left her to it because she did it to herself. And she didn't deserve my pity. And Abby piped up and was like, yeah, Debbie saved my life, she's cracking.
I'm a terrible drug
Don't tell
addict.
her off, don't arrest her, please.
Well, what was I talking about earlier then? I must have got confused.
No,
I thought this already happened.
No, this happened then. I can't. It was in Monday's episode where Abby finds out that Oh, it doesn't matter.
Dear.
Everybody knows
now.
We just maybe said it in the wrong order.
Doesn't
matter. Abby also wants Debbie to give the garage back, so she gets the paperwork to Kevin, and Kevin tells Debbie to do what he didn't want anything to do with her, but yeah, all right, I'll keep the garage, thank you very much. Oh, that's nice, I get to keep the £90,000 that I got for it, bonus. But he's still not keen to trust her, and we get to see lots of brooding shots of Kevin over the course of the next episode and a half.
Him.
And I don't trust my sister. So she's something up with her. Debbie, towards the end of the episode, speaks with Ray on the phone and says that DS Doodah has been sniffing around. But I put the
Bandit.
I knew you'd say that, but she literally used those words. So I
typed
them down and I said, I'm going to say this on the podcast. And Jen was going to say, no, I don't
I was
like
that's
phrase.
really annoying. We've already gotten over that now.
I like that phrase.
Okay.
She says that she's put the kibosh on the development, all over. I've started selling her assets, so before long we're going to have enough money to send you packing off to Turkey. And then she kind of puts the phone down and she's just kind of smirking at how things are looking so much rosier for her now, and she basically is thinking,
got it made.
I got it made. I've got all this money coming to me, raise out of my hair. This is like the ultimate business move.
Yep.
Alan Sugar would be proud of her.
He would. I mean, he really liked Katie Hopkins, so I think he bloody loved Debbie.
Yeah. And back at number 13, we have another scene with Kevin and Abby, and Kevin's still struggling to forgive her. Blah blah blah. Yeah, that was about all that happened there. Friday, though, this is where David starts getting involved, because Debbie wants him to start signing all these papers and get things moving so he can get back into number 8. But he seems to be a bit hesitant to get the ball rolling on this. And we find out why the next scene, where he says that he hasn't got enough money for it. And I've kind of lost track of what the financial situation is with everything
he literally explained it.
Can you tell me?
Well, he sold his house.
Yeah.
So he's got money.
Yeah.
Right. So say he sold his house for 100 grand.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's got 100 grand now, does it? It means that however much money he had left on the mortgage, however much he paid, minus that, say he paid 20 grand off, he only gets 20 grand out of it. Yes.
Okay.
So he's got some of the money. He's got however much he paid in to the mortgage, less the interest. Right. So now, to buy the house back, he needs to get the rest of the capital. So all he's got at the moment is a deposit. And depending on how much money he actually has put into the mortgage, that deposit might not actually be enough to get a mortgage for the amount that he can afford to repay. And I would be shocked if anybody would sign off on a mortgage for a house with a great big sinkhole in the garden, to be honest.
Yeah, that's just filled itself in. It's fine now. Not a problem. So Debbie then goes to Tracy and brings her all the paperwork for streetcars and the flat and everything, and we learn that Tracy's got no plans to move back into that flat above streetcars. They're perfectly fine at number 1 with the recovering alcoholic brother, the octogenarian father.
At least there's no pesky dog there anymore to take up all the room.
Very true.
Is Amy living there? Must be.
She must be there. We just
so Steve's buggered off.
Haven't seen her for a little while.
So there's 3 adults and a kid, and another one to come.
Yeah, it's a little bit cosy in there, but she's perfectly happy with it.
She's just glad to split the rent.
Yep. But she'll fill out the paperwork and everything, so everything's going fine there. While she's there though, this is in the Rover, she hears Shona coming in asking for a barmaid's job. She's talking to Thingy Daisy, isn't she? She just wants money because she's fat. She's so desperate to leave this rat-infested hellhole that they've moved to on the Dog and Gun estate that she just will get a second job. She's in addition to the buttering of rolls that she's doing at Roy. Is she doing any of that at the moment? Did she have a little trial the other week?
They said, aren't you working at Roy's? And she's like, oh yeah, well, whatever, that's not enough. But I don't think that Roy was eager for her to come back.
No, and they've just given flipping Asher a job as well. So Shona's even
Shona should really stop pursuing customer relations jobs.
Why? Just because she's a little bit blunt?
Because she's rude to everybody and makes them mad.
Well, that's fine.
And
I think that having Shona on the list of Rover's barmaids, I'd be quite happy to see
I
that.
think you're right, but I'm saying, like, I'm sorry,
calm.
I was talking about it in real life. You're talking about it. If she turned up for the school run wearing a red dress, what's she going to wear to be a barmaid? That's a good question. Yeah. And I can really actually see some hilarious scenes between Emma, Jenny,
and Daisy
and Shona. Daisy and Shona, because the thing is about Daisy is that she's such a bitch. Jenny doesn't seem to realise, and Emma is too nice to call her out on it. But Shona will call her out on it, but she'll also insult her without realising.
Yeah, and Daisy won't suffer Shona's
nonsense.
No, she won't, and she'll.
Yeah, they'll hate each other.
So I think that could be quite fun to watch.
And then Emma and Jenny will be trying to keep peace.
But I do think that having Shona there as a barmaid she would look the part. Is Ryan? Is he still working at the Rovers? Was Ryan working at the Rovers, or are we making this up? There's an awful lot of people working behind that bar at the Rovers return.
Still, isn't he?
Yeah, and is Gemma working there as well? I lose track.
I think it's just whoever's. They all stand outside in the morning, ready to come in at 11 o'clock. Jenny lets them in, and then whoever's first in the queue gets to be behind the bar.
Yeah, and there definitely are still some level of serving restrictions at the Rovers. I mean, it looks like they are letting people come in to sit, socially distanced from each other in the booths and the tables. There's not huge crowds in there, so there's semi-opening at the Rovers, but I don't think they quite need all these members of staff. So maybe that's an idea for the future, having Shona there as a barmaid. But anyway, the whole point of that really was that Tracy overhears that Shona is saying, we're desperate for money, we can't afford number 8. So Tracy hot foots it over to Debbie and says, I will have that house, thank you very much. We've got the money, we've got the capital, sign me up. Abby doesn't like this plan though.
She doesn't think it's fair, because it isn't really.
No, she's got a bit about it.
Well, because the whole point, one of the reasons that she originally opposed Ray's idea was not just that he was a sex case, but also that he was trying to destroy the community and making people move out when they didn't want to. And honestly, of all the people that were forced to move, David was the one that actually didn't want to go.
So David got the paperwork from Debbie at last later, and he's like, yeah, I'll have a look at it, maybe over the weekends, maybe get it back to you on Tuesday, maybe after Tuesday, and that's what wound me up. And I was going, they don't have weekends on Coronation Street. They don't have
you were lecturing me
about... I had a little mini Twitter conversation with Michael Adams about isn't it silly how every day on Coronation Street follows on after each other?
But they used to do that in the old days as well. They did. Michael,
rarely.
Who does the quiz? I do the quiz, and I click through day to day, and almost every single one will follow one from another, especially during the week, even in the old days.
No, I think that you will find...
It's a mix.
What I think you'll find is they would often refer to, there have been days that have passed in between this episode and the last one. I think that was the norm. And it's just weird now how it's not. But anyway, that's a serious game of it. I've mentioned this before on the podcast.
Let's do Patreon top 5 moments where we were irritated at the passage of time and how it was depicted in Coronation Street. I
can't be doing. I just can't stand it. I want a new producer to come on and say, let's have spaces between episodes. I think
it would be of detriment to telling a story.
That's the thing. It totally
it would just be an added complication.
But it just takes me right out of the realism of it. It sticks in my craw. It does.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so at this point, Debbie says to David, "There's been another offer in this house already, so you better get your skates on, love." And he finds out later that it's Tracy because she's there, poking her nose over the fence, probably looking at that sinkhole and going, "Oh, what can we do with that?" She's
like, "Oh, it's gone.
Wonder if they can knock a bit off the price of it because of that."
It's gone. They forgot to dig it and put it back.
What's that sheet of green fabric doing lying on the grass there? Anyway, Debbie and David both catch her at it, and Debbie says David's got first refusal, but he's got to get in there quick. You need to cough up, lickety split, she says. And that's how we leave this.
Yakety yak.
That's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing. Enjoy this week, this story?
Yes.
What did you think about... this building development plot. I know it's not completely over because everybody's got to, slot back into their little houses and everything. But for all intents and purposes, it's over now, isn't it?
It kind of is, but...
And what do you know? They didn't knock down the houses and build a hotel.
I've got a theory about what's going to happen with the house, but I'm not going to say anything.
Why?
Because some of it's a spoiler, but I think if you know the spoiler, it's really obvious what's going to happen. I
don't think I know some things that are happening coming up, but I don't think I know anything with this.
But I'm not saying anything else because I don't want to get people to speculate and spoil it for themselves. Right, so I am loving Debbie in this. I think she is the closest thing we've had to a female villain for a long time. She's not really a proper villain, but I like the fact that she is a bit morally grey. I mean, I don't like how much she's bending over backwards to try to give restitution to people, but she really doesn't need to do that.
No, I do. I mean, partly, I think she's doing it because she wants to rebuild bridges with Kevin, and maybe she thinks that if he sees me, doing good by these people, I kind of swindled out of their houses. But yeah, Kevin is not worth anybody's time. He's pretty insufferable.
He's now fallen to, in my estimations, below Tim. News alert, everybody.
Blimey.
I am really not having it with Kevin anymore.
He's just a grumpy old man.
It's not rants and bants and Kev the Crank and funny jokes. He's literally just a grumpy old man who isn't grey-haired yet, so people take him seriously.
I don't know what Abby sees in him particularly.
I can't see the point of their relationship anymore.
They're all
they
good
used to get on. They used to be like, hee, I'll flick you with this oily rag, and now it's like, you know what I mean. But now it's like, well, what's the attraction?
Yeah, I mean, she's got to at some point take a step back and say, right, look, there's this guy that's 20 years older than me? 10, 15, I don't know.
I'm a smoking hottie. I might have troubles in my past.
Got a little bit of baggage.
I'm skilled. I'm a skilled worker. I'm hilarious. And I'm plucky and I'm heroic. Why am I with this loser old guy who won't shut up moaning about literally everything?
It does make me think that there's potential in a story for Kevin to, and mate, I can't believe I'm advocating for a will they split up story, which is Corrie's bread and butter at the moment.
How are they going to split up?
Well, I don't know, just Abby realising that there are, more viable alternatives than Kevin, and as long as one of them isn't bloody Peter, I don't want that.
No, I didn't like that.
But that's partly the problem is
guy.
I don't know whether there are any guys on the street that are good enough for Abby at the moment.
I know.
I really don't think there are.
They're all shiftless wasters compared to our Abby.
I'd quite like to see her, settle down and be happy and everything because I love the character so much. I want good things for her.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the only thing you can say about Kevin, he is a whiny bastard, but at least they seem fairly solid at the moment. The only time they've ever had troubles is when she's had drug issues.
Yeah, they are relatively solid, and she is good with Jack. And we've been told
he's quite an undramatic person, even though he is a bit of a drama queen. But nothing really serious happens to him.
No,
he's a very boring person. It's not like. I mean, the last exciting thing that happened was he got some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He doesn't go looking for drama, does he?
I mean, yeah. So,
and she does need a stable, relationship.
Yeah.
But it just feels like she could get a little bit bored of it.
Is Bill Webster dead?
Oh, this was a talking point, wasn't it?
This was a talking point on Twitter when Debbie says she loved Bill, her dad. And she used the past tense to talk about him.
I needed to go back and rewatch that because I did see somebody claim that that's what she said, and the subtitles said that, but I didn't actually hear it with my own ears at listening out for it. But assuming that the subtitler was right and the person who heard it,
I mean that could be literally the only reference we ever get to the fate of Bill Webster.
That would be very sad.
Yeah.
If Bill has been written off just, with an off-the-cuff remark on this week's episode, because it felt like he was a pretty important character. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, when Coronation Street will spend more time on Ken Barlow taking a photo of somebody else's dog doing a poo and spend, minutes and minutes and minutes about that, and then just have one word to describe the fate of
throw away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he was, an unpopular character either, was he?
No.
Bill was a nice chap.
Yeah, I used to, he was a bit more of a ducker and a diver in his younger years, but when he was sort of an older gent,
he was a nice granddaddy, wasn't he? Yeah. Him and Auntie Pam together.
But,
him and Maureen together were kind of fun.
And the trouble about it is that sometimes you might, in the English language, describe how you felt about somebody in the past tense when they're still alive.
Yeah, I can't remember what the sentence was. Whether she was talking about at the time when I was being
don't get me wrong, I love Dad. And that would make sense to say it like that, because you did love him at the time, but you're still expressing your dissatisfaction about how you were treated.
Usually, when a character, when a parent dies, usually they make a bit of a thing of it.
Yeah.
I mean, often it's an excuse for a female character to go off on maternity leave.
Maybe they don't want to use it up in case.
I'd be sad if we didn't get anything out of it. And I got the impression that last year, when they got that money from Auntie Vi, that Bill was still alive then. So I don't know. It'd be a shame, but
it would be a very Kevin thing to just not mention the fact your dad's died. Just carry on being a grumpy old sod.
Yeah, I think I think it would be silly that to carelessly kill off a character, even if they're not mentioned anymore. There's always storyline potential for a dying grandparent. So
they've done worse.
I'm sure they can claim he's not dead.
Well, they literally could have sent blimmin' Jack to Germany. If they, instead of sticking him in the front bedroom playing on his Xbox.
Yeah. What did you think of the whole Ray's not really dead twist? I mean, I was talking about the fact that I didn't really believe Debbie's story. Are you pleased with how things are turning out? And can you believe, is it credible that we ended this last scene we saw them with her cowering in the kitchen?
Yeah, how did that
get to say, no, don't kill me.
I don't think we'll ever find out how they went from A to C.
Yeah.
But I'm not disappointed that he was alive. It was kind of, you could see it coming. But, sometimes you're supposed to, so...
Why is she doing it though?
I'm just kind of hoping
I'm kind of hoping that she's actually going to get all of Ray's stuff and she's setting him up. He's determined not to sign anything over until he's in Turkey, but really the cards are in her hand. She's...
I know. I this is why I said earlier about Debbie that you can't tell what she's up to, and I'm holding out hope that she's got a master plan somewhere to stick it to him. Or do something. I mean, this is what, to me, there's two ways that this is going. Well, three ways. He's going to go off and come back some years down the line, perhaps. He's going to have his comeuppance and do something violent and die.
Yeah.
Or she's going to shop him to the police and she's going to stitch him up so that he's implicated in everything dodgy that happened, and gets off scot-free.
Yeah, and as being the one who's taken down the great Ray Crosby, everyone's like, hooray, we love Debbie and we all forgive you.
Yeah. And Kevin's like, oh.
I still stand by what I said last week on the podcast, where this feels very much like the baddie goes away for a little bit before making his final triumphant hurrah. So it wouldn't surprise me if,
he comes back from Turkey,
month or so time.
Do you know what? Turkey's rubbish. I'm not living there.
You might not even get to Turkey, because if Debbie is refusing to, give him this plane ticket, before he hands everything over to her, he could go, right, that's it.
Yeah, I can see there being a struggle. I mean, I think that they would do well to ship him off to Turkey and have him come back when they can actually do stunts. I think we deserve to see... The thing about it is that at some point they're going to be able to do stunts again, and it might be this year.
They punched Kem in the face this week. What more do you want?
I want explosions. It might be this year, as early as this year, right? The end of this year? Yeah. And if it's going to involve a villain, I would rather it be somebody who is established already, rather than somebody they quickly shoehorn in. you know, God forbid it be Mick the gangster. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be somebody who we know and we've learned about and we are familiar with and we think is a bad person, so that the impact of it is more exciting. So I'd be perfectly happy if they shipped him off to Turkey and then he came back at Christmas. Surprise, it's me.
It's and me, right? Do you remember me?
Keep me away from that helter-skelter. You know what I mean? And then we have some kind of Christmas...
Yeah, maybe.
shooting or whatever.
It's all quite fun. The one thing that's getting my goat a little bit is I don't like that Abby is being quite so gullible, and as Abby, the hero of the hour, always comes up with the best plan and everything. I don't like the idea that...
What's she being gullible about?
Well, about the fact that Debbie's killed Ray.
I also like the fact she's like, well, fair enough.
He was a sex
evil
case.
Yeah.
She believes Debbie. She's staying quiet about it, and I'm thinking, no, Abby.
Yeah,
you don't
that
believe
doesn't
her,
really
do
make
you?
sense. I also think that
I don't like it when the villains pull the wool over the eyes of people I only like.
Abby's given no indication that she's conflicted about knowing this about Kevin's sister.
Not really.
You really would think that this would cause some kind of, issue. Like, if I knew...
Oh, she was raised up on a dodgy estate.
If I knew your
They probably
sister
did
killed
that.
somebody, I might just blurt it out. Like, in the middle of dinner or something. To not be able to keep it a secret. Like, your sister downward dogged someone to death. Do you know she's good at yoga? So that's the only way I can imagine her.
Maybe that's what will happen, and that's how it all comes out. Abby accidentally gets a bit tipsy and mentions it. I don't know. But no, I'm still pretty much enjoying this story, but... I'll always feel a bit of a sense of regret over this story that, the whole bulldozing and everything didn't quite escalate to the heights that it could have done if COVID hadn't happened. And it's always a shame because we knew that they were never going to tear anything down.
But to be fair, I mean, in a way, this isn't being fair at all, this is being really bitchy. But it's possible that if COVID wasn't around, it would still have been a bit lame and disappointing.
It's possible.
I don't know how much different it actually would have been. I mean, we already had people rolling down the street in cherry pickers and stuff.
It still only felt like a little mini issue that only a handful of characters really cared about.
Yeah, that's true.
And now it's all over, and there's no major celebrations or street parties like, hey, Coronation Street we've saved, let's pop that cork. Nobody really cares. They're just like, oh, we're having our house back. How lovely. Anyway, on to the next story. It's there were great moments in this story, and last week really was a highlight for me, and I enjoyed the silly protest a couple of weeks ago as well. But it's one of those what could have been stories really. But there were times during it where I thought this is a complete stinker, and the fact that parts of it were able to grab me, fair play. I think
Debbie's been a big part. Debbie and Ray are both really interesting.
It's Debbie, Ray and Abby, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. They carried this story.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Abby's not even anybody who was that upset about moving.
No.
Because she's sort of a bit of a, little hobo, the dog on TV that would always wander from house to house. This is what she reminds me of. A plucky little heroic dog that saves the day and then runs off to the next.
Yeah. And it's not like she's got some long-running personal history with the street, has she?
So I mean,
Ken stood in front of the digger on the anniversary week with his plastic bags that then didn't bother fighting for it anymore. Brian and Kathy... Again, they popped their heads up. They really
were of no consequence,
were they? No, they totally weren't.
I'm still waiting for them to be involved in any way.
Yeah. Who else was it that jumped up on the float? Alina was on the float. Not was it the protest truck a few weeks ago? That wasn't she?
Nobody cares.
No.
Yeah, it is a bit. I don't know. I think maybe it's something to think about if you're on the Corrie team of why was this story only interesting because of these three characters that have no real ties to the street. That's a bit worrying. I think they were a bit lazy with how they portrayed it, and I don't think they tried hard enough. And I think I'm a bit I don't want you to keep making excuses that you can't do this or that because of coronavirus.
Yeah, I know.
I'm being really, really mean now. I know I am. It's not really fair.
I would
because I know how hard they have to work.
I'd love to know what the original plans for this story were.
And we know that they're like so overworked at the moment that they're having to have a break in production so they can gather themselves together. I can't imagine how stressful.
I want to know what's been going on at Coronation.
It must be really
things have been going on at
well.
Coronation Street. If you live in what's his face? Matt Hilton. Matt Hilton's been doing some work at Coronation Street this week. Michael Gleeson, graphics man, has been doing some work. So things are still going there, just not filming.
It's just.
I'd love to be a fly in the wall in there this week.
It must be so demoralising to come up with all these great ideas and then have them snatched away from you.
Yeah.
And then having to sort of put something together that is not as good, and you know it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you they're all like driven to produce.
And then you get little picky internet people going,
I think it wasn't
they took their mask off when they came inside.
They take their mask off when they talk. But, how many times have you been somewhere and you've really had the urge to take your mask off to tell somebody something and put it back on again?
Oh, well, I'm back in school next week. It means it's going to be masks all day for me every day. Oh, it's horrible. Right.
I heard glasses wearers have a lower... rate of catching coronavirus.
Really?
Yes, I think you should wear a visor and a mask.
Oh.
You're not going to wear your glasses, are you?
I don't know. No, it doesn't matter. Let's talk about Gail's fanny.
I wouldn't normally share unsubstantiated coronavirus.
Yeah. Twitter fact check.
Yeah, but listen, I don't think anyone's going to be harmed by wearing glasses, is what I'm saying.
No.
But if it can be of slight benefit, perhaps worth mentioning.
Okay.
I haven't caught it yet. I've been wearing my glasses this whole time.
Also not left the house.
Also not really gone anywhere. I was talking on the phone to somebody today and I was like, I haven't worn shoes in 9 months. I have, but not very frequently. Right. Desperately finding Fanny, Monday. Gail.
That's just the story.
That's just one of them.
That's just one of the many picks.
I like Gail Fanny's about because I think fannying around. I use that phrase a lot, and I think it's quite charming and fun.
Do you remember the Thin Blue Line?
Yeah. Yes, of course I do.
Inspector Grimm, that was his thing.
Oh.
Fannying about. If you've not seen the Thin Blue Line,
please go and look it up on YouTube if it's on there.
That was the late 90s was the period when, for me, British sitcoms were like. At their height, and then they suddenly fell off a cliff. And I'm one of those things were better in the olden days sort of people.
You literally want to live in the 90s.
British sitcoms of the 80s and then the 90s. Vicar of Dibley came around 94, I'm going to say. Then Blue Line 96, 95, 96. And it's like, I just didn't really like British sitcoms after that. But Thin Blue Line was brilliant. And Inspector Grimm is fannying about. Classic. Get and watch
and it's got...
it's Rowan Atkinson.
If you need to be convinced that it's good, Rowan Atkinson.
What an underappreciated Rowan Atkinson character. Everyone remembers Mr. P.
Yeah,
everyone remembers Blackadder, but Raymond Fowler, brilliant character.
Thin Blue Line was fantastic. Yes. I loved it. And it was actually a surprisingly diverse cast for,
it had,
for the 90s.
It had... He was the Inspector Goody. He was the gay one. James Dreyfus was in it, wasn't he? And the one who played Amber's mum on Coronation Street was Inspector Habib.
Yes.
Brilliant. Blimmin', what's his face? The king from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that was diversity.
What was his name?
He was fat.
What was his name?
Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Not Mark. Not Mark Eaton.
Mark.
Yeah. Anyway, we're so good getting off topic so much. You talk about Gail's...
Gail goes to the factory to retrieve a box of family items that she has placed there because they are moving house and she needs to store things somewhere because she's homeless, isn't she?
Yeah.
Basically. She's relying on the good nature of her children, both of whom she has not raised particularly well, really. A photo of a fanny falls out. No, not a biological fanny, a lady fanny, a girl, a woman from Victorian
Mark
time.
Addy, says
That's
the iPad.
It. See, that Mark Eden sounds similar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Right, so she's like, oh, who's this Fanny? Fanny. Let's just say Fanny all the time. I'll type Fanny into the internet and just Google Fanny and see what happens. Gail, she talks to Sam. I think it was really exciting. This is like one of my biggest regrets about not having kids is like family trees, genealogy, talking about your family history, not knowing that nobody's going to care about any of the stories about my like relatives and family and people that came before me, but being able to share something exciting with a kid, like, look at this is your great whatever, that's exciting. So she's trying to find out information. She goes onto a website, and somehow there's like some kind of social messaging board on there where everyone's got stupid names, and I can't remember what her name is.
Oh, just something random, wasn't it? Like genealogist or...
Jeannie...
I don't know.
Well, she meets somebody called Top Hat.
Yes.
And Nick comes in.
I don't get why people would have weird usernames like that on a family tree website.
Surely it would be of detriment to finding out who anybody is.
Yeah.
Surely if you're going to use your real name anywhere, it would be a website dedicated to family history.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I'll tell you what, the sad thing is, in the future, family history, like family tree is going to be like Michael Dodson, and then it will be like @conversation_, and all of your like online aliases.
Yeah.
Anyway, Gail on Wednesday. Gail's contacted Ted, her lovely gay dad, about Fanny. He hasn't got back to her because he's like, Fanny's not interested. She goes on this genealogy website and she finds the woman's name is Fanny Winfrey Page, and she is Gail's great grandmother.
Is it
or maybe more great.
No, great. I think she said great.
What is Fanny short for? Must be short for something, like Fannuel. Let's call her Fannuel for now.
Penelope.
Penelope, I like that. So somebody says, oh, I've got the same grandmother, and let's meet up. So in the pub, Audrey and George meet up, and they talk about old times. Gail turns up. I guess you probably have realised this. It turns out that George is Top Hat, and they're related.
Right, Gemma, from Wikipedia. Fanny is a given name, a diminutive of the French name Francis, meaning free one, and of the name Estefany.
Oh, Estefany!
The Spanish version of Stephanie, meaning crown.
Francis. Francis Winifred Page.
I don't know whether it was Winifred or Winifred, because I've written Winifred here, but...
Winifred sounds like a fake
name. I don't know.
George, so...
George and Gail are somehow related.
So does that mean that Audrey was like flirting with someone who's actually more related to her than Gail is related to him?
Something like this, yeah.
Ew.
What are the chances?
Audrey's like, this is weird, I'm leaving. And then they start talking, and then she goes crazy and she says that she used to be Nefertiti.
Oh, Gail.
And Mary comes in.
Gail.
She goes, back into the annals of time. She does a special gesture. It was a bit cringy.
A bit.
Mary comes in, and honestly, Mary was jealous because George was talking to Gail. But if she'd heard the stuff about past lives, she would have gone off on one probably.
She'd have loved it.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there wouldn't have been a new rivalry, not over George, but over who actually was Nefertiti in a past life, because I'm sure that Mary thinks she was as well. George starts to get paranoid. George goes to drain his spuds.
It's because he's
getting... actually do the prostate.
Yeah, it's because Mary's staring at him.
Yeah.
There were a couple of zooming ins of characters this week. There was a zooming in of Peter when he's sitting there at the table in number 1, and there was a zooming in of Mary giving George a death stare on Wednesday's episode, and he's like, I can't be dealing with this.
So basically, Gail, Mary, and Eileen are now all competing for the affections of George. Gorgeous George.
But
he's not interested in Mary for definite.
Mary, I don't think Mary wants George anymore.
I think she's
Gail was just annoyed that she's been spurned by him.
Gail was just enjoying talking to anybody that's not her children.
Yeah, having a grown-up conversation about regressing into past lives
and not
Egyptian
cooking
queens.
Eggy
dippy eggs.
Dippy eggs, yeah.
They just they have a slanging match, don't they? Gail and Eileen, but they can't have an actual, fisticuffs party on the street like classic times. They end up just hurling insults at each other, which was quite fun. I can't remember what there was about. There was one where Eileen said that George should hire her at his undertakers because she could bore the customers to death and then he'd get a bit more business. I don't think he needs much more business at the moment.
I was going to say, normally also your customers are dead before they come.
Well, no, she can just kind of stand around outside the funeral parlour.
But the more people that you kill who come in to sort the relative stuff out, the more complicated it becomes. You don't want to kill off the people that are picking the hymns out.
Anyway, it was quite fun, but it did feel to me a little bit like a reference. Like do you remember the Gail and Eileen fight? Rather than being something that was, a classic argument in its own right.
Yeah, I know. I think it's weird that Audrey and George met up with each other and then started chatting and stuff. And he is in no way bitter about the fact that she got his dad's.
There are a few things that are a bit odd about this. That was number one.
Hang on, not everyone remembers or was watching it. So, Archie Shuttleworth used to date Audrey. Archie Shuttleworth was the funeral director who's the father of George Shuttleworth. Audrey and Archie had a fling. He died. She got left 80 grand.
Just a couple of years ago.
And this wasn't that long ago. And then that's the money that Nick and David stole.
Yeah.
And somehow she got this money as inheritance, even though he has a living son who clearly they didn't fall out. There's no reference to like some great family secret or argument or.
No.
I can only assume that he was so loaded that 80 grand was just a small percentage of his overall fortune.
I'm sure there was a thing. Was there? About the Shuttleworths not being happy that Audrey had the money? Or am I just remembering Rita and Ted in the 1990s?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen, where I'm experiencing time at every moment.
There's... But whether or not there was some kind of feud and we've just forgotten about it, George and Audrey are chuffed to bits to see each other. So the fact that this money wasn't mentioned was one problem that I had with it. The second one was that George has been hanging around on the street for a good 4 or 5 months now, maybe. Yet neither Gail nor Audrey have seen him. And I know he's not been in loads of scenes, and he's been mostly either in the flower shop or over at Eileen's house. But I struggle to believe that they haven't noticed him. I suppose Audrey's mostly been in Grasmere Drive all this time, but I just kind of assume that when a character moves in and the viewers are introduced to him, then he's introduced to all of the characters and they all add him on their contacts list on their phones because everybody seems to have everybody on the street on their contacts list. But anyway, I'm just nitpicking.
Here's an interesting fact about Archie Shuttleworth's will. Ken also was a beneficiary and he received a brass monkey which had previously been given to Archie and Blanche's will.
Oh, lovely.
Fact. And that's from Coropedia.
What do you... The fanny, let's talk about the fanny thing. Funny or not?
Funny, no.
I also say no, and I feel bad saying that because we make stupid jokes and ridiculous innuendos and silly puns all the time. But I hold Coronation Street to higher standards than I hold myself. And I think that this is such, low-hanging fruit and scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to comedy. And the fact that they're giving it to Gail as well, who's already,
it was
a shadow of her former self.
My problem with it was another Kirk moment where they had to slightly bend the rules of grammar to make the jokes work. Like when Kirk said, I said I'd come bare. And they thought I meant naked, but I meant as a bear, and I just conveniently forgot to complete the sentence. Whereas Gail's like, I'm just looking up a fanny. I found a fanny. It's like...
I don't even think it's that. I just think they think that there's something inherently funny in the name Fanny.
Well, there is.
But that's with our stupid schoolboy sense of humour, and it's maybe
there's
funny
once.
There's
a lot of stuff that's sillier than that we find funny.
But I just know that it's going to keep on going. They're gonna strain every drop of humour out of this word Fanny.
It's because it's been done before by everybody else a million times. That is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if this story was about Gail discovering her great-great-grandmother, Ethel, I might feel differently about the story, honestly. But now I'm thinking of the story just going, oh, that's the silly Fanny story. That's the story with the grandma with the silly name. I apologise to any Fannies that are listening to this.
They've heard it all before.
Just that one choice. Let's make our viewers laugh by saying a funny word has tainted the story for me, which could actually be quite interesting. Delving into the Page Potter whatever family tree.
I've got a surname that is a rude word, and I've heard all the jokes. You don't need to tell me. If I can see somebody's face working, I know before they even say anything that they're.
Have you got a Fanny in your Cox family tree? What? Why the silence?
I just literally said my surname.
Yeah.
Is a rude word.
Yes.
And so when I hear people make fun of people who've got names that are also a rude word, I kind of am over it already because I've heard all the jokes. It's not funny.
Okay.
It's kind of annoying, and you're never the first person to have thought that it's funny.
I know. Aren't we
It's not like I don't have a sense of humour about it. It can be funny sometimes, but whenever you meet someone and they know what your name is, you can see it on their faces. You're like, just keep it to yourself. I know, like it's written on your face.
Finally, just before we move on, because we're stringing a lot out of this story where there wasn't much to go on so far, did it annoy you at all that we found yet again some characters that just happen to be related to each other, which seems to be coming thick and fast in Coronation Street in recent years? Carla is really Johnny's daughter. Emma is really Steve's son. I'm sure there are a lot more. They seem to be...
There should be more ones where they're like, it turns out we're not related at all.
Well, there's that as well, isn't there? I'm sure there's been things like that. I think they're overusing the coincidental relationship.
But what's the purpose of it? That's what I'm worried. That's what I'm interested in. Like, for what reason are they going to turn out to be related?
Yeah, that's true. There is a story here, but we haven't got there yet.
Is it actually the fact that Audrey got left 80 grand in Archie's will, not because they used to have a fling, but because she's related to the great Fannual Winifred Page of the Page what were they used to be called? Buckets. What were they called?
I don't know.
Audrey Potter.
Potter, yeah.
Yeah.
Potter.
Fannual Winifred Page Potter
and
the Potter clan.
Yeah.
And that's why she got given 80 grand.
So it doesn't feel like this is going to be a serious story. But
one thing that I kept thinking about when I saw the picture of the lady and like, oh, I'm related to it, and wondering why they're bringing it up. It's just I haven't read the book that Ken Barlow wrote, The Murder Mystery.
Oh yeah, the Cartwright Mysteries.
Yeah, which is sort of a similar thing in that it's about the ancestors of Coronation Street.
Yeah, the olden days.
Family.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the show, in the early years of the show, that was called Paige.
No. Threes are crowded. Let's move on to the next story. So we got Michael's getting rid of James. He's doing the... he wants to have lunch with Grace and Aggie on Monday, and he's going to ask her about moving in.
He's so dumb.
Aggie is very suspicious because Michael's cooking his posh lamb.
I want to know what this is.
For sure, he's about to propose to her.
I'm fascinated
to Grace, that is.
To know what posh lamb is. I think Aggie's just like posh lamb is anything that doesn't
lamb
have like
and
lamb and bananas in it.
What did you think? I know you don't like people talking about Corrie women who can't cook, but I did enjoy Grace telling Aggie that her tea's horrible.
I love this so much because it felt to me like an acknowledgement that some people can actually
make tea wrong.
You make tea right.
As we were watching it, you said, "Better's Yorkshire tea."
Shut up! Are you getting me in trouble?
Neither of us like Yorkshire tea in this family. I'm sorry, listeners. We know there's a lot of Yorkshire tea drinkers out there.
Yorkshire tea is fine if you like it. It's just it's not universally the best tea, but you wouldn't know that if you talk to somebody who likes it.
No. PG tips and Tetley all the way.
I'm not even that snobby about tea.
No,
we used to have the value stuff. I didn't care.
The value stuff's lovely.
The Yorkshire tea is just...
I don't know whether it just doesn't go with our water.
Yeah, I think it's a water thing because you've got soft water up north and we've got hard water. It's funny, isn't it? Funny, our water down here is well hard. Don't have like none of that soft northern water pounding around the tap. You can tell where our water's been. There's residue and scum all over the place. Yeah. Build your bones up.
Anyway, Grace comes over to number 3. Only Aggie's there, so it's all a bit awkward. But it doesn't take long before she starts mentioning this whole defrauding the family for a year thing, which Grace is trying to forget ever happened now.
She's trying. I don't know. Has she actually apologised to Aggie?
I don't know.
She's like, shut up about it.
Yeah.
That was last year.
She says, I'm not going to sit back and watch my son fall in love with you all over again. And Grace is not having any of this, saying, look, I've got no intention of falling back in love with Michael again. We are just here to make sure that my kid, that your son put inside me, that we put inside me together, is going to have a good life, and we want to sort things out and do good by he or she, him or her.
What a great way of saying it's about the baby.
It's all about the baby, Aggie. All starts escalating, and before you know it, Aggie's yelling that she's an evil, manipulative cow.
I think
Grace leaves.
Everybody, including Coronation Street, the show, is gaslighting Aggie about this. It's like she's going, have you got short memories? Have you not remembered? It wasn't that long ago. This woman was lying to us about one of the worst things I can imagine. And everyone's just over it, and I'm the crazy one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel sympathy for both sides here. I'm enjoying watching it.
I'm enjoying this way more than I've enjoyed any Bailey stuff so far. This is fascinating. This like mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law thing. I know they're not that yet, but
yeah.
But it's really fascinating and interesting to me because there's so much conflict involved in it. So many unspoken social rules that are being observed here, and it's such a fascinating, tense relationship. And even if you think like, oh yeah, I'm going to be over that, I'm not going to be like that. Like there is always a bit of tension. You can't escape it really. And I think it's also interesting to have it. I think it's going to be handled a bit better and it's not going to be really sexist. Like the mother-in-law stuff was always like the men talking about their mother-in-law and how they hated them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this is a bit more of a universal concept of like the way throughout history a daughter-in-law would have joined the family and then there would have had to have been a sort of a conflict over who's in charge of the family now, sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, and also the fact that Aggie's just not having it is great, and the fact that Grace is such a bitch.
So you said that this is a favourite Bailey story so far, but it's not issues based. But we did get a snifter of issues based story a bit later on, didn't we? Because after Michael comes home, finds out what's happened, and then
he's mad because
chasing off
Grace
to find Grace.
Yeah.
He gets stopped by the police for looking like a robber. Yes, he's racially profiled. I think they didn't. They did make a thing of it, didn't they? I'm only saying it in this tone of voice because it's a Bailey's, and it's like, oh, I thought this wasn't going to be an issues based story, but it certainly feels like they're going down a racial profiling story, which they might be able to do well, or it might be another Bailey's story that is, skirting on the edge of issues and saying, look at us, we've got an issues based story here, aren't we great? Over in 2 episodes, let's move on. Come on.
No, listen, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but also this is something that you've never experienced in your life, and people have.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying it's not an important issue.
I don't think it is an issues based story. I think it was literally going, just to remind you, if you're white, you might not know that this is a reality that people like Michael will have lived through, and they will have had this happen to them. Like the way he reacts is like, oh, here we go again, none of them were surprised, and that's really depressing.
Yeah, Grace comes over and starts having a go at the police.
Grace immediately starts shouting at them about it.
I'm just, because I've been through this before so many times with the Baileys.
Oh, you're triggered by the racism.
No.
It sounds like that's what you're saying.
The Baileys are an issue story, aren't they? Everything
you don't need to go high.
Is an issue story. That's what we joked about that before. So I'm very sensitive to things like this, and I'm thinking,
it isn't always an issue storyline, Michael. It isn't, because Grace snatching a baby and
almost
pretending
everything.
That was the biggest story they had last year, and that is not an issues based story.
They had the Stephen Lawrence Day racism thing. They had the gay footballer thing. I'm
Both
sure
of
there were
those.
more.
Yeah, exactly. You can't even think of any. I'm going to say that. Is this like the second time they brought up racism for the Baileys?
Yeah.
So, or what? So 2 times a black family's experienced racism on Coronation Street is too much for you? Imagine if you were black, it'd be a bit annoying, wouldn't it?
Okay.
I just don't want you to look bad because you're making me look bad, because this is something that's a reality to people and you're acting really blasé about it, like it's boring to you to watch it.
If they are going to do a decent story of this, they're going to do a good job of it, fine. But if it's going to go nowhere, like some of these stories have gone with the Baileys in the past... It does sometimes
go nowhere. Look, you don't really have experience of racism, and neither do I. And so when we see it, it kind of jumps out at us and confronts us and makes us feel uncomfortable, and we don't really like it because it reminds us that we're really privileged and other people aren't. And it makes us feel guilty because we don't have to go through this stuff, right? But it also is jarring because we're thinking, well, that doesn't happen. I don't see that happen. I'm not racist. You know, I see black people all the time and I'm not racist to them. I never see somebody being stopped on the street. I never see somebody mates calling somebody a monkey at a party, like the Stephen Lawrence Day story.
Yeah.
So when you see it, it seems really unrealistic and weird, and it jumps out at you, right? But think about all the times on Coronation Street that you've seen people being sexist to each other, and it's just part of the way that people speak to each other. And because you're so used to it, a lot of the times you don't even notice it's sexism, but it jumps out at me because I know I'm viewing it in a different way. So to people that are watching this who have experienced racism, they're not watching it and going, oh, another racist story. They're just watching it going, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah,
can you see from that perspective? I think a lot of white people do get caught up in that thing of like, oh, why do they have to keep bringing it up all the time? Why do they have to keep talking about racism, blah, blah, blah? Like I don't want to be lectured to. It's not even about that. It's about telling a story about someone's life. And if you're telling a story about a black family, they will involve talking about that.
Okay. I see. No, that makes sense to me.
Because other prejudices are invisible to us because we're so used to experiencing them on a day-to-day basis and it not really affecting us that much. That's what I think.
No, I think you're right. Anyway,
I just really think that I don't want people to dislike the Baileys because of these stories, and there's so much caught up in so much baggage in this, and people have so many opinions about stuff. It's really difficult. I know it's really difficult to navigate this, and it's really hard to talk about it. And I'm also really scared to say the wrong thing because coming from a place of privilege, I don't really know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to talk on behalf or over people or about people or instead of somebody. But we're a podcast with 2 white people, and so that's the best as I can do.
Oh, you come out of this. Yeah, I think people.
It's not about but that's the thing. Listen. No. It's not about who looks good and who looks bad or shaming somebody for having the wrong opinion. And I said this before, and I hope that people have listened to what I said about shaming people about having the wrong opinion or like everybody has to conform to thinking the same thing. It's okay if you have a different opinion but you have to listen to other people's perspectives as well, and you have to consider that you could be wrong. That's all. Everyone just needs to listen to each other. You don't even have to like what you hear.
You've made me think.
But I could be wrong. But I could be wrong. Somebody who's listening to this, there could be people of colour, black people listening to this who's going, no, she's talking bollocks. This is rubbish. Actually, I'm fed up with these storylines. That's not, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm talking on behalf of people, but I'm just, again, it's the same as with the Peter storyline. It is an issue storyline. It is something that I haven't encountered. It's something that I'm trying to sympathise and talk about, but I'm going to get it wrong, probably. And so I hope that if you are listening to this and you have an opinion about it, I hope that you would write in and say it in a nice way, and we can share your opinion, you know. Be polite and let's be fair and have a conversation about it. Because it's Conversation Street.
Nice. Anyway, this little fracas with Michael and the police officers gets Grace storming over, and she's like, and before long he's let off because they realised that it wasn't him what done it. No, so they go,
and they didn't even say sorry. They just went, "Well, on your way."
Yeah, so they go home.
They were really entitled, weren't
Michael, they were. They didn't have Officer Craigie doing that one.
I just want to also say
make Craig look racist.
That on the other hand, I did read a lot of comments on Twitter, probably from white people, saying this is really bad. Coronation Street's trying to make the police look racist and incompetent, and it's not helpful. Blah blah blah. That's just another perspective. Not necessarily one that I agree with, but everyone is going to have.
Yeah, I mean it ties in with the whole, the Black Lives Matter and all that from the protests last year and everything.
Oh, the old Black Lives Matter thing.
Yeah, no.
So 2020.
No, I'm just saying it's relevant.
Of course it's relevant. Michael police and how they talk and interact with the black community is like a massive issue.
Let's move on. I'm just saying
it's okay. Things. It's okay that you're not political.
No,
it's okay. Not everybody is. But it's because it doesn't affect you. That's why you don't have to worry about it.
Michael and Grace go home, and Michael says to Aggie, "Look, if Grace is moving away, I'm going with her. Actually, because I want to.
Michael's leaving with Grace.
I want to raise this kid either here or there.
Hull.
Yeah, I'd even go to Hull for her." And Aggie says,
"I'd go to Hull and back.
She can stay." Michael then at the end of the episode presents Grace with this little baby scan. No.
Yes.
Does he give her? Yeah, he gives her the baby scan.
He's got this present, and everybody thinks he's going to propose to her.
Yes.
Because he bigs up this present so much, and he's really proud of it.
With 12 weeks scanning, she's over the moon. And
this was sweet, Michael, because the insinuation all along, I think she might have wondered this as well, is he's bought her something elaborate and expensive. And the fact that it was just a scan, which would have cost under 10 quid probably to make this, but she was so happy and excited about it because it symbolised the importance of the baby to both of them. This was really sweet and a really important character moment for Grace to demonstrate that she's not being a gold digger, she's not trying to take advantage of him, she genuinely wants a relationship with the three of them together as a family.
I don't think at the moment there is any, evil schemes from Grace. I'm not saying it won't happen in the future, but I think genuinely she just wants what is best for the kid.
Yeah.
And they end up talking about isn't the world awful at the moment? And
but it's not even that.
But they do. They say aren't people horrible? And and hopefully when this kid grows up, the world will be a better place.
But think about this, okay? So. The Stephen Lawrence Day was when was that happen? That was last year, and that was like I can't remember when that happened.
It was the spring sometime, wasn't it? I mean, it was during. It was delayed a little bit because it wasn't.
No, but when compared with the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd.
A few months before. Yeah.
So that story, if you think back to it now and you think about what they were talking about in the scene, it's even more poignant because you had the Stephen Lawrence Day story where they were talking about racism, and it was a really interesting discussion between different generations of in a black family who've experienced racism in different ways, and how Ed was basically saying it's been a lot worse than this, you just got to let it slide off your back, and Michael was saying I don't want this. I don't want this for my kid who he thought was Tiana.
Yeah.
Then, it was bad enough. And then it got even worse with the George Floyd thing and the Black Lives Matter, where people were rising up together and saying this isn't acceptable anymore. And then you had a backlash of people saying, oh, what about me? What about my life? Why do you care about me? Oh, you're getting. Oh, you guys, you're rioting. Why? There was a backlash against them saying just the simple thing of Black Lives Matter. That should be a simple statement that everyone could agree with. But no, and so you come back around now to January 2021 with Michael being confronted on the street by a cop saying, you fit the profile, which by that I mean you're a black guy. And then you have him come back and he's going to raise a black child in this society where he thought it's not really acceptable, and then it got worse from that stage, and now we're here where we are now. Have things improved? Are things going to get better? This is what you would be worrying about.
It all makes sense. Again, very wise, John.
And it's not like, this is the thing, it's not like it's not something that would be on your mind all the time. If you're Michael and Grace. Just because it intrudes on your viewing experience, some experience that you never thought about before, and you get confronted with it. You know, it's because it's the first time it's occurred to you.
Wednesday, Michael is back at the house, ready for Grace to come round, and she's barely in the room 5 minutes before she's telling Aggie she can't stand her tea. And
what does she do to it?
How can you go wrong?
I'll tell you what, one time...
If you leave the bag in too long, that can be
She could squeeze the bag too much. I don't like that either.
Yeah, and you do get these people who just leave the bag in the teacup.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sometimes I do that. I wondered, like, I remember one time I went around my friend's house and I always have sugar, or used to have sugar in my tea, and she didn't have any, so she put lemon curd in it. Because she thought, she put lemon in tea, you put sugar in tea, what is lemon curd if not a combination of the two? And I was drinking this and I thought the milk had gone off. And she saw me and she delightedly said, "How's your tea?" And I was like, do you think is it okay?
I remember that story.
Yeah, and she's like, "I put lemon curd in it." I was like, "Well, I am not drinking anymore, you lunatic."
That does sound just like what Aggie would do.
Yeah.
Anyway, later on, it all seems like they've made it up. And Aggie vows that number 3 will now be an oasis of calm. However, later on, when Michael's out of the room, Aggie and Grace drop the act. Basically, they still hate each other, but they have at least agreed that while Michael's in the room, they're going to play nicey-nicey.
No, I think they say to each other, "I don't know how long we can pretend like this." I kind of liked this kind of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of weird, like, united against the guy who's trying to unite them.
They tricked me. I thought that they had actually made up, and I was a bit disappointed. I was like saying, "Oh, I quite enjoyed that antagonism between them, and they've made up already, have they? That's a shame." So when as soon as he left the room, they were like, "No, still hate you."
And they weren't. It wasn't even like they were kind of like how sometimes you get in a movie or something where like the crotchety old lady will finally accept the ingenue as a suitor for her nephew or whatever, and they kind of like grudgingly agree to respect one another. It was literally like, "You're a horrible old bag and you're a conniving little cow and I can't stand you. No, I can't stand you either." It wasn't... it was like they really hate each other. I love it so much.
I think that we're going to, like, Michael's going to walk in on Grace being vile to Aggie, and it's going to make him think twice about her.
Yeah.
I can see that. Because he's heard Aggie, really bad-mouth Grace in
Aggie
private.
comes across really badly here because Grace is always like trying to suck up to her.
Aggie's also supposed to be the grown-up as well, isn't she?
I know, but if you had a son and he'd been treated like that, you would be vengeful.
I know.
Why would you be nice to this woman? There
seems to be
She's
not
dangerous.
very much sympathy for Aggie online.
No, really?
Yeah, and I think I can see where she's coming from a little bit. I know that she is also, the mother-in-law from hell, but she's got a good reason. Similar, I guess, to Ivy, who was also, Poison Ivy Brennan, but she had a very good reason for, hating Gail and being upset and being difficult with the kids. And part of it was her religion, part of it was the fact that Brian died, and we'd just been watching her, in the wake of Brian's death on the DVDs, and got a lot of sympathy for her, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing that's making us feel sorry for her there is also triggering him for old Aggie as well. I'm looking forward to this. I'm interested to see where it goes. But, with the Baileys, you never know whether it's going to be off screen for 2 months and then whatever. But, I mean, there's a pregnancy. When's she due? Summertime? So, yeah, I think...
Squeeze it out in September and then it'll be top of the class. That's what my advice is.
Right, let's move. This is a long street talk this week. Usually we're finished by now, so let's.
It's because I've been waffling on about things I don't know anything about.
Let's crack on with this Paul story where not much of note happened, and then we will finish with some Asher.
It is Kirk's 39th birthday, and he is selecting his birthday guests because apparently they still have some rules in Coronation Street parallel universe. And Todd's name's been picked out of the hat. He can come to the birthday party. Hooray! Todd invites himself to Billy and Paul's speed dial meal, and then...
Yeah, he's not so keen to go to Kirk's birthday party,
unsurprisingly. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this name anymore.
It is definitely RJ.
Because I think
maybe just we called him AJ before, but he was RJ in the show. I don't know.
But I thought that Todd called him something completely different again. He pronounced it slightly differently.
I don't think so.
Because I originally thought his name was Our J. So it's RJ.
It's RJ.
Yeah, but it's RJ.
Yeah.
Not Our J.
No.
RJ.
Well, when they was first introduced, I thought, this is just the side character. He's going to be in one scene at the call centre. It doesn't really matter what his name is, but actually he keeps cropping up now,
He's one of these characters where you can pronounce the name in different ways, and it seems that everyone who's got a script hasn't agreed on how you're going to say the name.
Like Yasmin.
Yeah, Yasmin, yeah. So he comes to speed dial, and Paul and Billy aren't really... They don't know why he's there, honestly. They have a chit-chat about musical instruments, and RJ wants to get rid of his piano. And Billy says, I used to play a piano. We don't have any space in our flat. And then on Friday, Todd convinces Paul that Billy would love to have the piano for his birthday, because it's also his birthday as well as Kirk's birthday or something. When is his birthday? Paul gets the piano and he reveals it to Billy, who's like, why have you bought a piano, you lunatic? Then Summer comes along and says, hooray, a piano! All teenage girls love pianos.
I'm surprised Summer didn't come in and go, OMG, oh, there's a piano in the street, oh my gosh, can we have
this
a
is going to be amazing for my TikTok.
Yeah.
Billy starts playing because he's like, they're trying to get him on Masked Singer, probably.
He's already done a soap sauce. It wasn't soap sauce superstar, or was it? I don't know. He's done something, hasn't he? Some reality TV. Look at
Singing.
me, I'm an awesome singer.
I
he
can
really,
sing,
really is.
I can dance.
Daniel Brocklebank has got a good set of pipes on him.
Jealous.
And he did get to prove that in today's
episode. And he can
episode.
play the piano. Todd comes over.
I was trying to watch. I was thinking, is that Dan playing the piano? I'm not sure. And there were lots of scenes that, you know how they do, where they show somebody behind the piano and the hands are moving, and then they just show the hands.
Do you know what it was?
What?
He was socially distanced from his hands.
He totally was socially distanced. But then I think there was at least the bit where they were in the flat and he was sitting there. I was thinking, I think he is playing the piano there. But then maybe somebody's going to say, no, he wasn't.
You're not the only person who can play the piano.
Can't play the piano. You know, I can't play the piano anymore.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've got you one for your birthday.
There's no room. Thank goodness we're moving house.
We'll have to get a new house to fit our piano in.
All right.
So he's playing the piano, and Todd comes over.
That piano seemed to stay in the middle of Rosamond Street for quite a while in today's episode.
I am concerned about
yeah, very concerned.
the fact
cars
that
swerving around it.
You would not want to be rolling a piano over cobbles,
no.
would you? Even I know that's not a good idea. So Billy's playing, Todd comes over, they start reminiscing, and then Todd
just keeps bringing things up in the past
Paul's
about wasn't it great when we were a couple.
Yeah, Paul's not there this time, so it's just Billy and Todd. And so Todd's doing two things. He's reminiscing about old times, but he's also trying to put the needle in, going, you know what, I can't believe Paul bought you this. When you said you didn't want it. Billy catches on almost immediately, and when Paul comes over, Billy plays up how excited he is to sort of put Todd in his place. He's like, let's do a jig.
They have a little jig on the couples, don't they?
And Todd sort of goes, curses, and walks off.
Boiled again.
Will starts ringing Paul, and Billy gets upset.
Because he thought they
and
finished
Will is
with that
the kid,
story.
the kid from the charity. He's not supposed to have his number.
But the fake one. He's not really.
Fake.
He's not really a neglected child.
Maybe he is a neglected child in need of cash.
He doesn't have any cash, that's true.
So Paul answers it, tries to put him off, and Will says, no, you need to help me. And Paul says, I'm telling the charity about this for your own good, hangs up. Turns out Will and Todd are there together, and Todd says, I've got one more thing you need to do for me, which I assume is something horrible to the piano.
Yeah, smash it up. Yeah, he's going to go around and twiddle all the knobs, so they have to call in the piano tuner.
Oh, no.
I don't know what this one thing is.
You think piano tuners are essential workers?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't know what Will is going to do. I don't want to speculate, but I mean, I guess it's going to play out next week.
It's going to be something, I can only imagine it's going to be something compromising.
Yeah.
Like leaning in or sort of trying to get something dodgy going on, like maybe for a photo, or so that Todd can come around the corner and go, "Oh my goodness, I must report this."
Will Paul and Billy survive? Find out next week. Oh my gosh, we've finally reached the Nina and Asher story, which basically it's just fanning about in the cafe, really, isn't it? Nina suggests that Asher get a job there because Deb's like, there's something not right about Asher. She's still pining over this whole Corey business, and she's going to do badly in her exams. Well, she's already done badly in her exams, so Nina says she can come and do some revision in here. I don't really see the cafe as being the best place to do exam revision. I certainly wouldn't manage it. But anyway, Asher thinks that's an ace idea. She helps out behind the scenes a little bit, and it transpires as the episode goes on that maybe this little Nina and Asher shipping thing that that many Coronation Street fans have been gunning for the past few months is actually going to happen. Because there's one point where Nina is telling Roy, or was it Deb? I think it was Roy, just how ace Asher is, and is listing all her awesome qualities, and Asher's doing a coy little smile and is quite enjoying the compliment being paid to her. Not just because, she needs people to tell her well done. It seems that she's possibly got a little bit of a crush on Nina.
She's got a girl crush.
Yes.
So this was something that has really been, I think, telegraphed for a while.
It's not necessarily been telegraphed, but
we
so far
Nina's always had taken a special interest in Asher, and we thought it was just because they were going to be friends, and that would have been fine with me.
The thing with Nina is that she has been, it seemingly completely, asexual for the year that she's been in it so far, and there's not been a hint of any kind of interest in, boys, girls, whatever. She's just...
Well, just because she doesn't go on about it like some people do.
I mean, everybody does. If you're a soap character, you're a randy bugger by nature.
No, they don't necessarily.
Yes, they are. They're always hopping in and out of bed with each other. And the
not
fact
at the age that Nina is at. I think that
she's 18, 19. I think she would be.
All right, well, I don't agree.
Anyway, so Nina... The thing with this is it, a two-way thing, or is Nina literally just saying, isn't Asher great and wonderful? Because she has been saying, she's been going around Asher's house, she's been supporting her, she's been saying, she's seen that she's suffered this past year and a half or so, and it might be completely innocently, platonically, whatever, just trying to build up the feeling of self-worth, the self-image of this poor girl, and for whatever reason, Asher is now, starting to go, ooh, she likes me, and is starting to develop maybe more romantic feelings. Or maybe, like you said, Nina has all this time, been carrying a torch for Asher. I don't know.
I just assume that they are going to end up in a relationship together. I wasn't excited about this because I just find in general that I don't relate to relationship stories, and I'm not very good with the steamy, pashing and going in cupboards and taking each other's tops off. I find it...
Roy's going to walk in on them at some point, isn't he? And he's going to be very awkward about it.
And I think they do it way more... I mean, there's very famous Rana and Kate scene of them in the back of the van when...
Oh, yeah. Who was it that caught them then? Was it
Zidane.
Ryan? Oh, Zidane.
Came and found them. Or did he...
No, he didn't. He didn't. I think it was Ryan.
Well, I don't like that bit. I would be... I think it would be great if they did have a relationship, but I want to skip through I just want to skip through the boring bit. I hate when Peter and Abby were kissing each other, and I just don't like the kissing and the groping. I just find it boring. It doesn't matter who's doing it.
To me, it doesn't. I'd be kind of interested in a way to see.
Oh, would you?
What? Yeah, for scientific purposes, obviously.
Need to investigate.
Because Nina has, she's a very, very different kind of person. She's not the norm. I'd be interested to see her in the throes of passion, because it seems so unlike her. And Asha...
Yeah, because I tell you why, it's because she's very chill, isn't she?
She is totally chill.
And you can't imagine her getting super passionate about a person.
No.
But she will have to, and I don't want her to... This is the
she
thing.
Might not be. It might be just kind of nice and sweet.
It might be just chill.
Yeah.
I don't want their personalities to get subsumed into the story of their kind of relationship. That would be disappointing to me, because I find both of them really interesting as individuals, and there's always a risk that a couple, the story turns into a relationship story, which are pretty much all the same. But I will say, the promising thing is that I think, apart from perhaps a few initial kind of ooh from Dev, I think everyone's going to be super supportive, and I hope that this would be a rather unproblematic relationship that's not about lesbians versus the world, because Coronation Street hasn't done...
I can't be dealing... If this is another Kana...
No, I don't think... This is what I'm hoping for. Because...
Yeah, can it just be normal?
Yes, the fan base was really toxic, but the relationship also was problematic, and the fan base didn't seem to understand that.
And it's not the whole fan base. The problem was...
Well, I'm talking about the toxic parts of the fan base that seemed to not get what the story was about. I would like to see a story, an unproblematic lesbian relationship where everything's cool and fine and nobody's having a go at them, and they can just in peace get on with having a relationship, and it's no different to any other couple.
Do you think that...
And that's the thing about the Kana relationship, is that it was just fraught with constant disapproval from everybody, and it was like everybody versus them, and it just became very messy, and people were getting mad at people for not enjoying it or liking it, and acting as though that was the same as not approving of lesbians, and it's not. That's not the case at all.
I think that we're making massive jumps to conclusions.
I think it's fairly obvious.
It seems like they're flagging it.
I don't know whether they both fancy each other, but if only one of them fancies each other, I'm still going to say it's not apparent to me which one it is yet. Because I think Asha was blushing and happy when Nina was complimenting her.
She was, and that's the unusual one, because it's another case of is this going to be a story where somebody who's shown no leanings towards relationship with the same sex suddenly develops those feelings. Is she still young enough?
No, that's not the case. You're right. It's because she's young and she doesn't perhaps know what her feelings are. So it's not the same as what happened with Tracy.
No.
Where suddenly she's like, this is me all along.
Yeah, and they didn't make it as big a thing about it for Rana. I mean, there was about, our family wouldn't understand and everything, but it would make sense for Asha. But I still think that there's bound to be scenes where Dev and Adi actually are quite taken aback by it, and they're surprised by it. And I would hope that they would understand quickly. I think if anyone's going to, out of the two of them, have a problem with it, I think maybe Adi. I think he's got some brooding kind of...
He's got the same thing that I didn't like about... I can't remember who it was now. Some of the brothers on the show where they're like, you can't be sexual, you're my sister. I can't remember who it was.
That was Zidane and Alia you're thinking of. I'm sure it was.
Yes, it's right. Yeah, you're right.
He was policing.
Yeah, it's like that. I think it's creepy, but I also think that it seems like some people fall really easily into, like they think that they're a sheepdog and their sister is a sheep, and they've got to herd them somewhere away from the nasty wolf boys. In this case, wolf girls.
Yeah, so I think that there's a possibility, but that's going to happen with Adi. But Dev, I think, because Dev thinks that he is so cool, he's going to be. He's going to be taken back, and he's going to be, hey, yes,
yeah.
brilliant.
Well, he's going to be like the man version of Sally. Like my daughter, she's a lesbian.
Yeah,
no.
totally. Isn't it?
Sally, me and you.
Sally, me and you.
We're the same.
It totally is, isn't it?
but then Sally will be like, well, my daughter's also a Christian.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
I'm kind of in my mind picturing
Corey's going to come back and probably think it's gross.
I want them both to kill him and bury him somewhere.
I don't think we've seen the last of Corey.
But
it wouldn't surprise me if because Nina has shown no signs either way of any kind of sexual persuasion. It's like, yeah, whatever.
But people. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes you might listen to what we say and think that we don't understand that some people are bisexual or that your sexual preferences can change over time.
I mean, that's definitely possible, isn't it?
So totally understand, and I'm on board with that, just for the record. And I am really kind of, in my mind, I've started to run amok with the idea of them, of like Ashley, Asha and Nina. And by the way, everybody needs to think of a shipping name for them. So just tweet us when you've got a good one. I am just imagining how the sort of series of crazy, weird and kooky gothic presents that Nina will present to Asha, and I can almost imagine her like a cat, like, here it is a dead bat I have taxidermied for you, and Asha's going,
I love it.
I've always wanted a dead rodent on my wall. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The one thing that I still that I hope out of this is because Asha has been very she was very hesitant about going to bed with Corey.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want it to be a case of, oh, she wasn't like that because she was, not willing to jump into bed with the first person. She wasn't doing it because she respects her body or anything. She was doing it because she didn't love guys. She wasn't attracted to men. You know what I mean?
What are you trying to say?
I think that I quite respected her for standing her ground and saying, no, just because I'm 16, it doesn't mean I'm going to, just spread my legs for anybody.
Michael,
thank you very much.
Calm down a little bit. I know what you're trying to say.
I don't want it to be because, actually I'm into you, Nina.
But that would be okay.
Hands down.
But listen, that's acceptable. But what you're saying, I think, is what we've said before about other characters. Like, I think Sinead was like this a bit more, where you have a character who's kind of reserved and refrains from something, and then it turns out that it's like we're all being lectured about how much of a prude they were being, and then they change for the better. Do you know?
Yeah. So
same with Alia, I guess, where it's like anytime somebody's like, well, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to have sex before marriage or something. It's like Coronation Street's like, oh yeah, let's see about that.
Mm.
But it would be totally, what's the word? Within keeping of the character, that she would be nervous if she was actually a lesbian and she didn't realise it and she didn't want to sleep with Corey. I know what you're saying, but I think you got to be careful what you say.
Oh, okay.
I know what you're saying.
Okay, yeah.
But she would be scared and perhaps uncomfortable and maybe think that this is what everybody's like, but her feelings are slightly different about it.
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't realise.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of feel that because wasn't it Amy that fancied Corey at first, and maybe there was a little bit of Asha kind of going along with it because all the girls at school have fancied Corey. So
she could be bisexual as well.
Yeah, she could, but I suppose as in Coronation Street where. They don't even. There's been no bisexual characters apart from Paula, I suppose.
Well, there have been bisexual characters, but they always say something irritating, like, "Oh, I don't see gender" or something, where they basically erase the existence of bisexual people by saying, like, "I'm not in love with the person's genitals. I'm in love with the person." Like Marcus, I'm not a gay man I'm not a bisexual man. I'm a gay man who happens to be sleeping with a woman. It's like that's fine, but also Coronation Street, you can have bisexual characters sometimes. You can have one. You couldn't put one in there.
Yeah.
Because they're really not represented very well.
No. They're and
really it is the case that sexuality is almost kind of an individual thing with people.
Mm.
So yeah, the existence of markers, certainly, you know, I don't have a problem with it, but I do have a problem with the fact that they had an opportunity to represent a bisexual character and they didn't take it.
No.
So
I'm looking forward to this because I think both of the characters are fantastic. I mean, I would have been absolutely fine with them just being friends. You're right, the whole, you know, lovey-dovey, steamy relationship kind of story isn't necessarily my bag, but we don't know if it's going to go that way. It could be very sweet. It could be just like, you know, let's go back watching Seb and together. Alina.
Yeah, exactly. But they were just really sweet and not necessarily physical.
Yeah. So
it's not, and it's, again, in case anyone's, because I know people listen to this to take offence at everything that we say. It's not about people being gay and being like, ew, icky, I don't like that. It's literally, I've said this about straight couples. I don't like watching it. It's just kind of don't find it unnecessary. I really liked in the old days when you'd see the people go in bed and then you'd turn the camera away and like the curtains would billow and then you'd sort of go,
like
well,
that.
they've done something unspeakable with one another. We don't need to say anything else.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the same page about that.
I am. The only thing I will say is that good to have. It would be really good to have a lesbian couple with an unproblematic relationship. It would be great. They can go back and perhaps think about some of the criticism that was levelled at them by some people about the Carla relationship and why did people not like what they did with it. Don't try to titillate people and don't provoke people, especially with social media posting. And I know it's really tempting to be clickbaity about it, but that's what went wrong.
Yeah.
And I really am also want to say that I'm concerned about the possibility of how much toxic nonsense the actresses will have to deal with inevitably.
Well, I know. And this is what
upsets me. Yeah, because these are both young girls who are both on Twitter and I think Instagram.
Tanisha's more Instagram. She's on Twitter, but she does more Instagram. I think actually Molly's more Instagram as well.
I would not be surprised, and I would say almost probably a good idea. If this is where it's going, deactivate your accounts and don't go on the internet because you're gonna have first of all you're gonna have people perving over you, grown men perving over you who is really women. Inappropriate. Well, predatory people of all genders coming at you, and you're also gonna have toxic fan base stuff, and you're gonna have people that are gonna find fault with every single decision and storyline direction that it goes in, because one of the things that Carla fans didn't like was when the couple faced any kind of adversity whatsoever, not really thinking about the fact that in order to have a scene you have to justify it with a story, and the story when it comes to relationships is almost always to do with conflict, and we've spoken about this, and it's not just gay couples that go through this, it's every couple, and that's why Coronation Street relationships are problematic and often short-lived.
Yeah, they do a very good job. We know that they will have them. They'll sit them down and they will talk them through.
I know
this.
that they.
Whenever
really
anyone joins Coronation Street, they have Ali Sinclair.
I'm certainly not going to bash.
Watch out for this, that, and the other.
I'm not going to say anything about the provision of support that is provided to the actors, because I'm certain that they do their utmost.
From what I've heard,
given what I have seen happen and how much I know the internet, I'm just going to say that be prepared.
Yeah.
For unpleasant people coming out of the woodwork, because apart from all the pervs and the toxic fan base possibilities, you're also going to get homophobes coming out as well. And you're also probably going to get the racists, because you've got a girl who's of Indian heritage and a white girl, and you're going to also get the people going, the PC Brigade coming out with the mixed race lesbian couple. What's next?
Yeah.
That I'm just really worried about it, because they both seem really sweet and lovely.
I know, I love the
and
characters.
I don't want to see either of them chased away, and I just hope that they,
We know.
I know. A really bad way to end this.
This time next week, we'll have a bit more of an idea, won't we? Because I think there was the first inklings of it in today's episode, and it feels like this is going to carry on next week, and maybe by this time next week one will have expressed their feelings to the other at least. I think, and Dev will maybe even know about it. Or do you think they'll try and keep it secret for a bit?
Oh, it'd be exciting for them if they did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
This could be a really good fun story, but I am worried about the
internet. No, totally. Right, this is like super long street talk we've done today. I can't believe this is like mega long. Look at that.
You're making it longer.
Right.
So who is your character of the week?
Oh gosh. Is it? I think it's probably Debbie. I'm gonna
Debbie.
say, or is it Ken?
Because also we noticed her earring game is strong.
Oh my god!
It's always been strong,
Debbie's
but particularly
earrings, fantastic this week.
Her style.
She had her holy hand grenade earrings on the other day, didn't she? It looked fantastic.
Very Vivienne Westwood.
You know, back in the day when people used to send, posts for characters like flowers or whatever. I kind of want to pick out the biggest, chunkiest pair of dangly earrings and send them to Corrie and say, please, can Debbie wear these, just so I can look out for them on the show. I think probably it is. I think I'm going to go for Debbie with character of the week.
Definitely. She's one of the most interesting people.
As for score, like I said,
it's pretty excited. We had a bit of a seizure today, didn't we?
We had the seizure was good. Today's episode was the strongest one for me. Like I said earlier, some of the Peter and Carla stuff did leave me cold earlier in the week. Talking about it, I actually felt it was quite good, really. But
I want to know. I just want to quickly ask if you're from a different country where funny means something different or doesn't mean anything at all. I don't think there is a country where funny isn't funny. When you listen to it, do you think...
France, I think, that funny is a perfectly normal name.
Is it?
I think it is.
Right, so when you listen to it, do you go to yourself, they're saying bum, ha ha ha, or do you go, ha, in England that means vagina? That's what I want to know.
What's my score? I'm going to say that this was
it's a 4.
Better than... You reckon a 4? I'm gonna go less. I'm gonna say 3.5 bags of gammy leg flavoured crisps out of 5 for this week for me.
Mine is 4 DS Doodahs.
4 DS Doodahs for Gemma. Lovely.
Oh God, can you believe that this is why it's nearly 3 hours long, because we've spoken about addiction, alcoholism, suicide, racism and homophobia and the depiction of lesbian characters in Coronation Street and internet fan bases. This is like the most controversial episode that we've ever done. This is like, if people don't complain about this, then I can say anything.